Trustee Lopez, if you're okay, we can start with the roll call. And do I need to contact Trustee Dopplemore, let her know we're ready?
Dopplemore,
Nope,
Trustee
here.
she's here. The meeting has been recorded since earlier, so it never stopped. Who is it that I'm calling for roll call? Is it Colleen again?
Is Sylvia?
Got it. Ms. Sylvia, are you ready for roll call?
Yes.
All right. Board members, it is Monday, April 18th, 2022. It is 5:14. Can we do a roll call, please? Can we please do a roll call? Hello?
Can you hear her?
Can you hear me for roll call?
Yes, we can hear you right now.
Okay, I'm going to start over. Trustee Medina? Trustee Ramos?
Present.
Dr. Little?
Present.
Trustee Dopplemore?
Present.
Trustee Calhoun?
Present.
President Lopez?
Present.
And Dr. Curry?
Present.
Moving on to item number 3, request to address the Board of Trustees in closed session agenda matters. We first up 3.01. Do we have anyone to address the board members on closed session agenda matters?
No requests.
Board members, do we have any future items that we would want to be requested for closed session agenda matters? Seeing none, board members, we will now move over to closed session and use a different link. Tech issues for those that are at the campus. So if you give us a couple of minutes and we will start shortly. And if Ms. Sylvia could let me know she's ready so we could do roll call. Ms. Sylvia, are we ready for roll call?
Yes, we're ready.
It is now 6:11 and we are returning from closed session. If we can get a roll call, please.
Trustee Medina? Trustee Ramos?
Present.
Dr. Little?
Present.
Trustee Dopplemore?
Present.
Trustee Calhoun?
Present.
President Lopez?
Present.
Dr. Curry?
Present.
Trustee Calhoun, if you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Right hand over your heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. And for now on, can we have the flag on that side? Because if anybody is in the service or has been in the service, the flag is always this side.
Moving on to item number 6, report of actions taken in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54857.1. We have nothing to report. Item number 7, Compton Community College District Resolution 418, 2022A, continuing Board of Trustees authority to hold virtual meetings pursuant to AB 361 open meetings, state and local agendas of teleconferences. Board members, do we have a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Trustee Ramos, and I believe that second was Trustee Dopplemore. Yes. Got it. Any discussion? Trustee Ramos,
No discussion.
Dr. Little,
No discussion.
Trustee Dopplemore,
No discussion.
Trustee Calhoun.
Discussion. This is 701, correct?
This is 701, correct.
Okay. The whole virtual meetings pursuant to Cindy Bill.
So this is an extension of 30 days until ever. This is an
Okay.
extension for 30 days, yes.
No discussion. I'll bring it up in my comments about the dates, the day that we meet. So I'll agree with this.
Got it. See, no discussion, Ms. Sylvia, if you could do a roll call, please.
Trustee Medina,
Present.
Trustee Ramos,
Aye.
Ms. Sylvia, Trustee Medina said present, and this is a yes or a no vote.
this is a yes or no vote.
Trustee Medina, yes.
Trustee Little, Dr. Little,
Yes. Aye.
Trustee Dopplemore,
Yes.
Trustee Calhoun,
Aye.
President Lopez,
Aye. Moving on to number 8, approval of open session agenda. Board members, do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Trustee Calhoun and seconded by Dr. Little. Do we have any discussion? Trustee Ramos,
No discussion.
Dr. Little,
No discussion.
Trustee Dopplemore,
No discussion.
Trustee Calhoun,
No discussion.
Trustee Medina.
No discussion.
All right, seeing no discussion, Ms. Sylvia, if you could do a roll call.
Trustee Medina,
Aye.
Trustee Ramos,
Aye.
Dr. Little,
Aye.
Trustee Dopplemore,
Aye.
Trustee Calhoun,
Aye.
President Lopez.
Aye. Moving on to item number 9, oath of office for student trustee. Dr. Curry will be leading in the oath of office for student trustee Paul Medina. Dr. Curry. I do want to flag whoever is showing the agenda. When you show the agenda, then you cannot see the audience.
Do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith in the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation of purpose and faith, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Dr. Curry, if he's going to address the audience, it'd probably be in front of a microphone as it was difficult to hear the swearing in ceremony.
I got it. I see it now. Here you go.
Is mic working? Great. Oh my goodness, I'm at a loss of words. Thank you. This is a big honor and a privilege. I'm very thankful for the students, Compton College Student Government for appointing me for the remainder of my term, 2.5 months. But we're gonna get a lot of stuff done in this 2.5 months. There are 116 community colleges in the state of California. Really honored to work alongside and esteemed great leaders of the finest community college of them all. Thank you. I look forward to making this great college, helping to make this great college even better. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for that. Moving on, we have no recognitions in today's meeting. Item number 11, request to address the Board of Trustees on agenda and non-agenda matters. 11.01. Participants, we do ask that if you would like to address the board members on agenda/non-agenda matters, you do type in the chat that you would like to speak or raise your hand. If you are calling in, we ask you to dial 9 and your hand will be in the queue in order to provide discussion on agenda and non-agenda matters. Dr. Curry, let me know if there is.
Yes, Trustee Lopez, we also have it set up for the in-person as well. And so Sylvia has a list, and so she will run off the list, which has in-person and also online. And she will start calling days for individuals to come up front to the mic to speak or be online.
Got it. So if we can get the timer on the screen. And Ms. Sylvia, whenever you're ready.
Travis Martin,
Ms. Sylvia, will you indicate if this is in person or if this is someone virtual?
this is in person.
Good afternoon, board members. Since there's only one of you here, the others are virtual. Maybe Ms. Calhoun, you can give them the information. I'm sorry, I'm coming to you. My name is Travis Martin, and I'm a classified employee. I've been working here at the college. This year will be 32 years that I've been here at the college. I'm also the executive secretary for the classified unit, local 3486A. And I'm coming to you today regarding 16.04 academic calendar that has to do with the 410 work week, work schedule. I've had several employees, classified employees and confidential employees come to me regarding our days that we have for the summer. Normally we do the 410 8 weeks during the summer session. And it seems that for whatever reason, the district is shortening those days to 7 weeks instead of the 8 weeks. And what you have before you are the calendars that are on from the website, starting from 2016, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, all the way up until the 2022, 2023 section. One of the questions we have, and as you can see in your package, also, we had contacted Dr. Curry back in 2020 concerning our 7 days versus what we used to do, 8 days. And of course, in his email, he referred us back to our contract that states that the district has the right to, set up the days that we have. One of my concerns is that I am also on the calendar committee, and we did discuss these 4-day work week, and we did recommend 2 particular days, 2 weeks for this year. And for whatever reason, I guess the district decided to deny. Deny it. So we're concerned about why we're only getting our 7 days versus the 8 weeks that we normally started out with. Like I said, from the 2016 all the way up to 2020, we had 8 weeks, and then it went to 7 weeks. I know during our committee, our calendar committee, we only can do a recommendation, but it seems that the district is not even considering our recommendation on what we're asking for.
Thank you so much. Your time is up.
Okay, well, thank you. So just look at the package and you can see what's going on with that. Thank you.
Felicia Hatton in person.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees and community. My name is Felicia Hatton. I have been an employee here at Compton Community College, Compton College for 23 years. I'm here to address Article 16.04, the academic calendar. I noticed when we was looking at the academic calendar that has been presented for the 22-23 year, that the last day to apply for graduation in the spring of 2023 has been moved to March the 10th. This day is very important to me due to I am the only college evaluator here. I don't understand why the graduation intent day was pushed back to March the 10th, which gives the students an additional 3 weeks. Saying that is that there's other deadlines I have to meet in March. So therefore, everything is compact and runs into each other, which caused me not to meet the deadlines and have to request for overtime. As you can see in the packet, the graduation intent deadline this year was February the 25th. It was extended to March the 11th. When the president visited our office meeting, I brought up the deadline that was extended, and I was informed who extended the deadline. The decision to extend the deadline was made by the director of A&R, and there was no justification for why the deadline was extended. It's not like we received a great deal of students applying after the original deadline. So the deadline went from February 25th this year to March the 11th. So because the A&R director is the chair of the calendar committee, I noticed that next year, because there have been an issue brought up about the deadline, it was set and put on the calendar to have the deadline for the intent to be March the 10th. Usually I have a CSU deadline, March the 11th, which is on the Saturday, or March the 15th. If those students wait to the last minute and apply, therefore I have to come in on a Saturday or wait to the last minute to verify that they was on track to receive their transfer degree to go to the university. This deadline is so important to me because in numerous emails, I was told that I cannot take my vacation due to graduation intent processing time. So if the intent processing time is continuously being extended, that means I cannot take my vacation, or I'm limited to take only 2 days vacation because of this deadline. Please review this academic calendar again, and
Thank you so much. Your time is up.
thank you.
Bruce Boyden in person.
Good afternoon. Dr. Curry and to the boards present and those who are online. I'm actually here to speak on Emily Hart Hollyfield, and I do see that it's agendized, well, the naming of the library is agendized, I think on number 21. So is it appropriate to speak now? Okay, yeah, I just came up to to express maybe my concern, maybe it's more personal than general, but I indeed wanted to take the opportunity to speak on behalf of the support of returning Emily Hart Hollyfield's name back on the library here at Compton Community College. Emily Hart Holyfield has served, she's the longest serving trustee of this institution here at Compton Community College. She served for 20 years. Her name was placed on the old library, I believe it was in 1995. And a big ceremony, name put up on the building, quite celebrated, not only because of her service to the college, but because of her service to this community. She served as a public servant in the public schools for 38 plus years, 20 years at this institution in leadership as a trustee, worthy of having had her name placed on that library. So I'm here just not to give up a whole bunch of time around the issue. We all know the issue. We've been fighting for this issue for some time now. And given that Mrs. Hart Hollyfield has recently transitioned, she yet reaches another requirement for her name being placed on the library. I'm asking that the trustees, along with Dr. Curry, truly consider this process and making this happen for this family. Thank you.
Benjamin Hollyfield in person.
Hello, everyone. I truly want to thank you, Terry, and everyone for this opportunity. My name is Benjamin Holyfield, and I'm Emily's husband. She passed away on the 5th. So my granddaughter is the one that's taking care of all the business situation, but I never really could quite understand. She was the first woman and the first Black woman to be on this college board. And I can never really understand when the college came back to us, we should have just simply put it up. That's what I was thinking. And a lot of people. I certainly appreciate, I see it on the agenda. I appreciate that. It's on the agenda for the city of Compton for tomorrow's agenda. I appreciate that. And I don't know what else to say because she was just dedicated to this college, totally dedicated. First woman, first Black woman, and I backed her up. I was the caretaker for her, so to speak. And I can just say that this college was her heart. And teaching was her soul. She taught for 50-some years, by the way. And thank you very kindly for allowing me this opportunity. Thank each and every one of you.
Mika Black in person.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Mika Black. I'm the granddaughter of Emily B. Hart Holyfield. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you for having the first meeting, to my knowledge, in person since COVID. I think that's a major milestone. So round of applause for that. I know that there's a lot of people who had to work hard to make this happen. So thank you for that opportunity. I'm here today to speak on agenda item, I think it's 2130, and that is the naming of the library. I'm here to appeal to the trustee board that you consider Miss Emily B. Hart Holyfield's name to be placed on the building, as she considered, well, I considered her, or in the community considered her, not just a pioneer, but a custodian of opportunity. There's not really many people here in the city of Compton that can't say that the Holyfields helped with something. And I think ultimately, in addition to the work she did to have her name placed back on the library, that's ultimately what she wanted to be remembered for, was someone who wanted to give opportunities to those who in the beginning didn't have opportunity. Ms. Holyfield, she was elected as a trustee, as a board of trustee college board member in the 70s. I do believe it was 1976, in which she had to challenge Los Angeles County against voter fraud in order to become the first woman, the first Black woman, the first person from her class, the cotton fields in Louisiana, to not only have a place where she could represent people like her, but give people the opportunity after her to be elected and to continue to represent our community. Again, I would like your continued support. I thank you for the item being placed on the agenda, and we are here to just continue her work. And I thank you all for being here to continue her work. I know she would be proud of all of you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Renee Brown in person. Sorry, Renee Bowen.
Good evening, Dr. Curry, members of the board. I'm here today in support of the item of 2130 and the renaming of the library. I stand here asking you to please consider in placing Miss Emily Holyfield's name back on the library. And whatever you can do will be much appreciated for the community and for the Holyfield family. Thank you.
Katrina Waller in person.
Good evening, Dr. Curry and the College Board Trustees. I'm here to speak on the agendized item 2130, and that's in regards to naming the college library back to Emily B. Hart Holyfield's name. I stand here in support of that. I was a student here from the fall of 79 to 1981. I graduated, and Ms. Holyfield was the type of president that just didn't sit in the office or wherever she sat. She was in person on the campus, interacting with the students. I had experience with her, direct experience. That's how I actually met her, but I knew her daughter before that. But Ms. Holyfield was the type of president that came down and directly spoke with the students, encouraging them and directing them to do the right thing. And I am a result of that encouragement. I'm currently a retired deputy probation officer. I came here at Compton College. My major was criminal justice. I went on to get a bachelor's at Cal State Long Beach, originally Pepperdine, and I transferred to Cal State Long Beach, and I did get that bachelor's in criminal justice. And I want to see that name back up on that library because she deserves it. So if you guys can put it in your heart to consider putting her name back up on that college. I know for a fact that the citizens of Compton would appreciate that. The students of past and the current students would. So please consider renaming or putting her name back up on the college library. Thank you and have a good day.
Francois Cornell in person.
Good evening, Dr. Curry and Honorary Board. I'm here to speak on behalf of Miss Emily Hollifield. As I came here today, I was really shocked. The campus is being rebuilt and looking good. I mean, I got lost and I knew this campus in and out. Ms. Hollifield, as I came here in 72, I ran track. I was a track star, I was undefeated, and I was big-headed. Most athletes come because you're an athlete. You know, you're not really worried about the academic or nothing like that. You know, you there. And I remember sitting over there by the cafeteria, doing what I normally do, having fun, building up my popularity. And Miss Hollifield came up to me and she said, "Son, that was a good race yesterday. You did good." But then he looked what I was surrounded by. He said, "But that's not what you came to school for." And she stayed on me. She stayed on me. She was a person that not just in the board, she interact with the students. She interact with the students. She helped us. You had a problem, you could go to her. Living in the city of Compton, you had a few, back then we had some good role models. We had a guy, Crochet. That's one of my role models right there. And Miss Hollifield. And she really helped me. And one of the best days I seen when they cut that ribbon. When I looked at her cut that ribbon, her face, the glow of her face. But what I couldn't understand is when we went into that problem and we went to El Camino, what happened? How they changed the name? How they changed the name? I remember you used to see me a lot. I know Mr. Curry used to see me. And I asked you one time, what happened? And you gave me some paperwork. You said something about, at Compton College, you have to be deceased or something and everything. And I gave it to the Hollifields and everything. And I stopped coming. I stopped coming around because I said, that's understandable. But I got to say now with my heart, this is something Miss Hollifield wanted real bad. This is something, when she talked about it, you could see her eyes. Her eyes was red. Sometimes she'd be crying.
Thank you so much for your comments. Your time is up.
Talking about Compton College. All right, thank you.
Miss Woods online.
Good evening, board and President. I'm just here tonight also requesting that the name for the library be returned to Emily Hart Hollifield. Ms. Hollifield was a educator, as I'm an educator, and many educators that I've spoken with always talk about her extraordinary capacity to teach, to reach out to community, to work within the school system. And she represents the type of person that we want our students and anyone coming into that university to know about and to understand how important education is. So tonight, I won't take much time, but I just want to be a supporter saying, please return that name to the library. because that's the type of person's name that you want on a building, someone who does, exemplify education and community and all those things that we really want our students to learn about. Working together, cooperative working. So I thank you for your time this evening, and please consider returning the name of the library to Emily Hart Hollyfield. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Earl Richard in person. Sorry, Richard Earl in person.
Good evening to the board, Dr. Curry. I'm Richard Earl, President of Concerned Citizens of Compton. I'm here to speak on 21.30. I won't belabor you with all of the facts, and because we all know what Miss Hollyfield was to us. We know what she was to this community. She was a lovely woman and she did a lot of things for us. I'd just like to see you guys call for a vote and just help us out and get her name back on the library, because this family has been asking for this for a long time. And I think now is the right time for you to consider doing this and having her name put back up there where it belongs. We all understand all of the things that went before, but now is the right time. I believe we can do this and do this with all our hearts and put it in the right place. And I appreciate it if you would consider it. Thank you.
Lynn Boone in person.
Hello, my name is Lynn Boone, and I'm here to speak on behalf of 2130. But I think it's a little more personal with me. For number one, I didn't know why Ms. Hollyfield's name was removed in the first place. I know there was issues going on here at the school, and there was names that were removed from the buildings because of things that they had done, which was wrong. And I understood that. But Mrs. Hollyfield has always been there. And why I say it's kind of personal to me is because when I began my venture here in the city, and it wasn't to be political, but it was to do the right thing, she was there. She was there for me. And she was a person that I could look up to, because even in the midst of all the politics as she was in, she never wavered. She never gave in. She never did anything against the codes or anything. And that name should be on the library for the mere fact they say this year and last year was for women. She is a stand-up woman, not just a Black woman, but a woman. And these young people should be able to read about her and know that you can be in politics, but you don't have to be doing the wrong thing. You can stand up for the right. And the last thing I want to say real quick, the last memory I have of Miss Hollyfield was when she made this last video. She looked so pretty. And she sat there and she said, I just came out of a meeting with Dr. Curry, and I think it's going to be okay. I think my name is going to be replaced. You know, I always felt that people know that they're passing, but they don't know enough to tell you that they're passing. And I felt that that was a moment there. So please do the right thing. You know, it's for the betterment of the city, the community, and just for the young people in general. Thank you.
There's no more speakers.
Thank you. Dr. Curry? If you're speaking, you can't be heard.
So Trustee Lopez, that concludes the public comment.
All right. Give me a second. Moving on to 11.02, Compton Community College District Board of Trustees, future agenda items requests. Trustee Medina.
None.
All right. Trustee Ramos,
None, thank you.
Dr. Little,
No, thank you.
Trustee Dopplemore,
No future agenda items.
Trustee Calhoun.
I'll do mine at the end.
All right. Moving on to item number 12, Board of Trustees meetings consent items. 12.01, minutes of March 21st, 2022, Board of Trustees meeting. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I believe that was Dr. Little and seconded by Trustee Calhoun. Do we have any discussion? Trustee Medina.
Same.
Trustee Ramos.
I have no comments.
Trustee, Dr. Little.
No comment.
Trustee Dopplemore.
No discussion.
Trustee Calhoun.
No discussion.
Seeing no discussion, Ms. Sylvia, if you could do the roll call.
Trustee Medina,
Abstain.
Yeah, but you see the thing about it.
If everyone that's not speaking can mute their phone. Thank you.
Trustee Ramos,
Aye.
Dr. Little,
Aye.
Trustee Dopplemore,
Aye.
Trustee Calhoun,
Aye.
President Lopez.
Aye. Moving on to item number 13, reports from representatives and employee organizations. 13.01, Associated Student Government Report. Stephanie Leonor del Cid.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Compton College colleagues, and honored guests. My name is Stephanie Leonor del Cid, and I serve as the ASU president for the 2021-2022 academic year. I'm here today to provide the ASU report for April. This month, in collaboration with the Office of Student Development, ASG held a series of events beginning with the Tuesday Cafe held on Monday, April 4th through Thursday, April the 7th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. virtually. Students learned the Pomodoro technique in a virtual study session with fellow Tartars. Secondly, ASG, in collaboration with the Office of Student Development in Compton College, is hosting Welcome Back Week, which began today, Monday, April 18th, and will go through Thursday, April 21st, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Student Lounge. The students will be joining us to celebrate the reopening of campus with games, music, prizes, and free food. Thirdly, we'll be hosting a virtual reality demo day on Tuesday, April the 26th. From 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., the RBVR Club will have a demonstration highlighting personal, professional, and educational uses for virtual reality. Fourthly, ASG attended the SSCCC webinar to conduct elections for the regional officers of the 2022-2023 school year. This will conclude my report for the month of April. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Moving on to item 13.02, Academic Senate Report for Dr. Minadora.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and other members who are attending. I am Dr. Minadora Moldovanu. I'm a Communication Studies faculty at Compton College and the Academic Senate President. I will have a rather brief report today. We had spring break and faculty were not productive over spring break. A couple of things that I would like to mention is one, me as well as the curriculum chair attended the spring statewide academic senate plenary the week just before spring break. This year, they did not have as many workshops we could learn from as they typically do, and that was because they were busy running elections for the new statewide representatives of the academic senate, so quite a bit of the time was taken up with that. They did have some really great resolutions that all of the colleges voted on. Aside from that, the Academic Senate is currently working on bringing a proposal for potential new programs to be added at Compton College. We had a first read at our last meeting. And we have a second read and approval hopefully at this upcoming meeting this Thursday. So we should hopefully have a list sent out to administration very soon. Aside from that, I recently had what I thought was a very fruitful meeting with Dr. Curry. I reached out to him a couple of weeks before and asked him if he'd be willing for us to meet so we can talk about maybe some of the unfortunate events that took place last semester in order to hopefully bridge that gap so that we can work together going forward. We did have that meeting. I thought it went well. I also learned during that meeting that some of the things that were stated during the Board of Trustees by either myself or some of the other leaders were hurtful, and I understand that. And I cannot speak for the other leaders of the other two constituent groups, but I can speak for myself. The intent was not to be hurtful. I think faculty, we were hurt. I know I used some strong language, and seeing it now from Dr. Curry's perspective, and maybe from even other people's perspective, I can see how some of the words that I used could have been interpreted in an even harsher way than I intended. So I would like to apologize. I think I could have done a better job at expressing the hurt while choosing more careful words. And I think that concludes the Senate report for today. Thank you for your time.
Moving on to item 13.03, CCCFE Certified Employees Report, Holly Schumacher. Dr. Curry, do you know if she was going to join us in today's meeting?
No, I do not know.
All right, seeing no one, moving on to 13.04, CCCFE Classified Employees Report, Aminqua McKenzie. Will he be joining us for today's meeting?
He did say this afternoon he would not be here.
Got it. Moving on to 14 presentations, 14.01 Basic Needs and Student Success. Dr. Curry.
So today we have Liddell Willis, speaking Director of Basic Needs and Success, providing an update on Basic Needs and Success. And I'd like to hand it over to Liddell Willis.
Good evening, members of the board. Dr. Curry, thank you for having me here today. I'd like to just give you an update, a spring update on our basic needs. Glad to be here to report out again. So next slide, please. So just a couple things we're going to be updating on. One, just our basic needs services, our technological equipment that we continue to hand out to our students, how we've been addressing food insecurities on campus, an update on our equity emergency grants, and then talk about some of the new services that we are looking forward to within the next academic year, our virtual healthcare group and our Metro TAP passes. Next slide. So just continue, we continue to hand out laptops, headsets, and Wi-Fi hotspots and calculators to our students. This is what we have so far as of April 1st. Of course, the numbers are down because more students in the fall needed them. And now these are mostly new students that need them in the spring. But one of the main things that students continue to need is hotspots. So we're continuing to go forward with that, getting Wi-Fi access to everyone and getting them out to them. So if you look at our numbers, 66 laptops, 66 headsets, 65 hotspots, and 103 calculators for those that are taking statistics and above. So we continue to provide those basic needs for students to get their classes done. Next slide. So we continue to address hunger on campus. Our first is our partnership that we continue to do with the Los Angeles County Food Bank. As you can see, our numbers are there for February, March, and April. We're very proud of April being, just on April 12th, being our best turnout yet. We are looking to continue doing this in the summer. And these happen every second Tuesday of the month. So please feel free to hand that out to the community. We actually ran out of food on April 12th, which is a great thing. So we could be looking at increasing our numbers that we get for the from the LA County Food Bank as we continue our partnership. The word continues to spread to the community and to students. And once students return to campus, we hope to continue to give out more. And as we continue to partner with them, and we also have projects in the way of maybe revitalizing the food pantry somewhat, food that's left over from the food bank distributions can go directly into our food pantry on campus. I'd like to thank all Compton College employees that have volunteered on those Tuesdays to come out. It's a great time, and I look forward to continue it. We continue to partner with Every Table. So the food delivery is still going on, along with Dr. Curry providing the campus lunch to students. So we still have food delivered from Every Table for remote students. So far we've had 115 meals delivered to students off campus directly to their homes where Every Table services. And we continue to provide Uber Eats cards as well. This spring, we've given out a total of 427 Uber Eats cards. Just continue to make sure students have a meal weekly. Next slide. So we continue to partner with Equity to distribute grants to our students. We've done a great job this semester. We've distributed a total of $202,000 worth of grants to our students just this semester alone. We've doubled the amount from the fall. We've increased the word to students from direct canvas announcement, text messages. So we really wanted to have this money directly to go to students. Dr. Curry gave us a charge to distribute, I believe, up to 800,000 out this year alone. So we're on our way to that goal. If you can see on the graph on the right, it's a little small, but it shows you when students apply for the grant, what the main needs are for them. So you see the largest ones are food, housing, and I'm sorry, I can't see it, but I believe it's just kind of basic needs that they all need. I can reply, thank you, whoever did that, thank you. So food, housing, transportation, some of those basic needs. That's what students are requesting mostly for their equity grants. Next slide. So as I said in the table of contents, some of our new services that we're piloting now that we hope to continue for 22-23. Next slide is we're piloting our partnership with the virtual healthcare group. Next slide, please. So virtual healthcare group is an organization that provides virtual telehealth, physical and mental health therapy. This is in partnership with what we're doing with St. John's. St. John's is still on campus. They're still providing face-to-face mental health and physical health services, but we wanted to get the opportunity out to more students to be able to access this. As we know, COVID has shined a huge light on mental health for our students. So we wanted to see if our students would be interested in this. Next slide. What they do is you have 24/7 online services via your smartphone, desktop or laptop, or a call center. And students have access to a real doctor, certified doctor, no nurse practitioner, no nurse's assistants, a certified doctor or certified psychiatrist or certified therapist in California, right on their phone. Next slide. And these are just some of the things that they can offer through that phone. As you can see there, addictions, crisis, depression, anxiety, grief and loss, LGBTQIA support, and others there. Those are the behavioral health counseling services that they provide. Next slide. And these are some of the medical health services for our students that need access to health right away. Like I said, this does not replace what we're doing with St. John's. This is just another option, and we want to make sure the students have every opportunity to access whatever services they need. We started this last week as a pilot for the end of this semester. All students were sent out an email and a text message saying that this service is now available to them. So we're looking at the numbers right now, and hopefully we can continue this next year. Next slide. Dr. Curry, thanks to him, he got on the phone and got some calls for us to finally get our students the Metro Tap Go Pass. You probably have seen that Los Angeles Community College District has set this partnership up with Metro to get free transportation to campus. So we are in talks with them now, and we look to bring this to our students within the next month. So all of our students will be available to get free transportation to Compton College, and also to their jobs or wherever they may need to go. We're looking to set this up probably in the next 2 weeks or so, where students are now able to have this option to them. So we take away one of those basic needs of transportation, so all our students have. So once campus opens back up, they have no issue with getting to and from Compton College. Next slide. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time. And now I'll open up for any questions you may have.
Trustees, we will start with Trustee Medina.
Thank you. And this is more of a comment on speaking as a student. I just want to thank you, because basic needs, especially technology assistance, is something very important. The pandemic showed us firsthand, and I had a slow computer when the pandemic began 2 years ago. I could just fathom with all the students, obviously, that was a make it or break it, whether they were going to stay in school because they had the adequate technology or not. And just for the record, this laptop and this actual hotspot is actually a loan from Compton College. Is actually basic needs program. And I could tell you this: when you're doing work, when your internet at your house, crashes, when all else fails, this is handy, and this actually is a lifesaver. So thank you for
that. Trustee Ramos.
My only question is, how are these resources publicized to our students?
Which do you have? All of them in particular?
Everything, the food, the medical resources.
So everything's on our Compton College website. So that's the first thing. We also send out Canvas announcements to all our students. We use the Tartar Support Network, which is a combination of faculty, staff, and students, to get the word out. I am currently trying to get on to our leadership groups on campus to present about what we do. And also, once students apply to the resource one time, we kind of get them all on that thread. So if they apply on the student resource application, if they're just going for maybe a laptop, they still have the option there to inquire about transportation assistance, food assistance, and emergency grants. So just that one application can get them to a lot of different resources, even if they ask or don't. But we are constantly looking for ways to improve communication to students.
Thank you, Mr. Willis, for this presentation and your answer.
Dr. Little.
Yes, thank you so much for the report, and I really appreciate it. Just as we continue to go through and track, especially after COVID, I was just wondering if we're doing any pre or post data comparisons, just to make sure that, any learning gaps or any challenges that we'll be able to track. So just wanted to raise that. Thank you so much.
Noted. Thank you.
Trustee Dopplemore.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Mr. Willis, for the presentation. I just have a couple of comments and questions, if you will. So regarding the food, back onto your chart that you put up, food, housing insecurities, the learning, and the transportation. Those are some of the top four, I believe, some of the top four buckets. So as it relates to the food, I did see, and I think you're referring to the April 12th, when you had the food distribution on campus. I did see that information posted because I follow Compton College, but we do have some students that have been online, or some students that have possibly been
during COVID, some of the students that are now just kind of getting back re-engaged to the college. So my question would be, during that food distribution, by any chance, did you capture any of the information of the participants that participated in the food distribution? And I'm saying that, and I bring that up as a best practice, is that we can possibly follow up with those students. I know that I do believe that it was open to the public, but if any of those participants happen to be students, then that will be an opportunity for us to reach out to them and provide, connect them with additional resources and programs that could be available to them. And in regards to the, I think you said it's the online, the pilot program for mental health. That is, whoever thought of that, kudos to them. That is a great opportunity for our students that are coming back post-COVID. That is a valuable resource that could be made available to our students. So that is, I'm very glad to see that that is being addressed in terms of basic needs. But what I would like to add further to Trustee Ramos' comment about the outreach. In addition to like the website and the campus notifications, if we could just possibly utilize all social media channels with flyers, if we could just connect with our students as to where they are. So those are just a few of my comments, questions, and observation. And if there's any additional clarification that you could provide, I would appreciate it as well, if you could do so at this time. But other than that, thank you so very much for the basic needs presentation and addressing some of the critical tools and resources that our students will need as we reconnect and re-engage with coming back to in-person. So thank you.
Thank you. So just going along with the food drive, right now, most of the people are from the community. It actually depends on the day if we're students on campus. So for instance, I know this week was a little rough because we're on spring break, but I do know when students are there, like I notice like all the nursing students will come. Or I notice if the athletes are there, then all the athletes will come. So it depends on the day and who's on campus when they come, but I know when students are there, they are accessing it. One thing we are doing to get additional information to them, like when other organizations on campus like EOPS, they'll volunteer. And what we'll do, we'll put flyers in the food boxes that goes to everybody about things that are going on campus. So we'll put flyers about EOPS, we'll put flyers about enrollment, we'll put flyers about upcoming food pantry. So that way, not only our students get it, but the community gets the information as well. So that's one thing we're doing just to help spread the word about what's going on campus. Our food pantry flyers, I do know, are on social media, that they are going out on our social media pages. So that's one thing we're doing to spread the information out. I am hoping once we get back on campus and more students are coming, I think we'll start doing a lot better. And also just hoping getting more student volunteers will help as well. As far as the virtual healthcare services, they're in charge of their own marketing a little bit, but one of the things that they did email each Compton College student that this was available. So it wasn't only just like a large announcement. Each student got their own personalized email to that. We're also looking at, they will be on campus pretty soon with the table promoting the virtual healthcare solutions as well. So, and also they're also looking for student ambassadors to be ambassadors for the program to help students learn about the virtual mental health care services on campus as well. So there are some things coming. Like I said to Trustee Ramos, we do need as much as we can as far as getting the word out. So I hope that answered some of your questions. If not, I would love to talk to you some more about it if you have other ideas.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Willis. This question is really more for Dr. Curry as well. Dr. Curry, Wi-Fi access on campus. This is capturing the students. I'm thinking more in line as the students are coming back online. Ease of use, is that information that's available as well to students as they come back on? And also, is there a way possibly, it's just kind of popped in my head as Mr. Willis was thinking with St. John's and some of the other partners that we have, is there a way, not just posting it on our social media, but is there a way that we can have a link to their social media as well? Is there a way that we could possibly do that without there being some type of conflict? So, and it's just to kind of, expand the network a little bit, if you will. And if there's something that, we need to research that, I'm okay with a follow-up on those particular comments as well.
Regards to the Wi-Fi, our Wi-Fi on campus is very strong. I think most people know prior to 2016, we did not have Wi-Fi on campus. And so we were able to implement Wi-Fi so strong on our campus. So I'm not worried about the Wi-Fi and the connectivity, but I will say what I'm worried about is connectivity for students at their homes. And I feel that the Wi-Fi hotspots is great that we have them, but that's not a long-term solution. And so we've been having conversations with the county supervisor for our area, Holly Mitchell's office, just trying to get a better sense regards to the whole digital divide and making our campus available for students who don't have Wi-Fi access at home, because the Wi-Fi hotspots is not a long-term solution. So that's one of the things that we have to work on, is that part. As it relates to your second question, regards to amplifying and work with our partners to promote some of our activities and events, I think that's a great idea. And I think we need to start beginning to have a conversation with individuals regards to promotion of our activities on their social media handles as we move forward.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Willis. What a fantastic report. These are some of the things that the board has been asking about, especially for our students, along with laptops, hotspots, food, transportation. And I see that you're right on the mark, and we're grateful for that. You was talking about the pantry. Do you have any idea when the pantry will start up again? Because when we had the pantry prior, I was able to assist with the pantry and helping bring goods and the type of food that the students would need for the weekends or during the week, whatever they wanted to eat. And I would like to continue that process once you get the food pantry back up. It's one thing to just talk about it, but we as a college need to be about it and be concerned for our students, that when they don't have anything to eat, that they can visit our food pantry, which is what they used to do. And then on, I think it was page 4 of your PowerPoint. Can you show the page 4? I think it was. Yes. So May the 10th is another food bank that we're gonna have. We just don't know the time or whatever.
It's always 1 to 3.
Oh, okay, okay. Because it says to be, okay. I just,
The TBD is for the numbers that we are going to serve.
oh, okay. Thank you. I'm just saying what it says May 10th.
Yeah.
No, I really want to thank you for that, this fantastic report, because we have been asking about this, what our concerns about our students, to make sure that they have everything they need in order to do their classes, not worry about food, not worry about money, not worry about transportation, and not worry about housing. And that's one thing that this board has been on top of prior to the pandemic and all during the pandemic. And I agree that the hot spots are only for, a little time, and we're gonna have to do better with trying to figure out other things. And maybe, I know that our students live all over. Maybe we can not we, because we don't do that. We do policy and procedure. Maybe, ladies and gentlemen can look into like Charter and Spectrum and whatever the cable companies are. If they're willing to like sponsor free internet for our students at the homes where they don't have to pay for it. Maybe we can look into those different type of companies, or we could look into sponsorship. And that's how our students will be better able to maintain, and if they're at home. And if they come to our college, maybe we could set hours up at our college until this happens, where the students can come on our campus and be able to use the Wi-Fi for free. Maybe we can, if you haven't already looked into it, because I know I talked about this once before, and I don't know if you were here at the time, but I talked about having hours where our students can come back on campus during the week or the weekend, because we don't know what's going on with their lives at their houses. Maybe it'd be an opportunity for them to come in and be able to use the Wi-Fi at the college during certain hours and on the weekends when they can. But thank you for that report.
Thank you. We're looking to open the food pantry back up in the fall. We're also going some ideas, there's a proposal going about right now to revitalize it a little bit, to make it bigger and make it more like a shopping experience for students. So we're currently looking for places on campus and ideas to do that. I've talked to some colleges that have done it that way. So, and we're looking to bring that to Compton as well. So, but we're looking for the fall, but long-term, we are looking to revitalize it a little more. So it's more of a shopping experience for our students.
And just to add to this, Liddell, and I don't know if you're aware of it, but the permanent location for a food pantry or a clothing closet, we set aside the space where the current Welcome Center is located as a potential vacant space for basic needs. And so we haven't talked about the programming for that because we've been focused on opening student services building, but that is the location that we identified as a large location for a food pantry or maybe a closet for our student, a closed closet for our students and other basic needs services. So we do have a location. We just have to think about the programming for that location. But our first priority is to open the student services building this coming fall semester.
Thank you, Dr. Curry. I didn't want to say the wrong place.
I do have a question, and I don't know if it was covered and I missed it. I know before we were also providing our students access of delivery service through Uber or Grubhub. Is that something that's still being done? And then the next question to also talk about, I know these are all our Compton College students, but did we have a focus or a breakdown of disaggregated data of some of the high school students that are able to take advantage, and how do we have outreach to them since they are able to take advantage of some of these services?
So those are the Uber Eats gift cards. So that's the ones I think you're talking about that students get. And the dual enrollments.
It might have been an Uber Eats gift card, but I know that there was a partnership that we had voted on during the pandemic, most definitely.
I believe it's the Uber Eats gift cards. That was before I got here, but that's what the students are using for food delivery. So I believe that's what it is. As far as the dual enrollment students, there are services that goes out to them. Dr. Alvarado would have to give you some little more information on that. But I do know in the summertime, I knew that they did have programs where they were getting food delivery as well. But I would say we're going to need to email Dr. Alvarado to get specifics.
Got it. So it's not part of the complete data. It's differentiated between the two departments.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for your presentation. Appreciate it. Moving on to 14.02, 2020-2021 Compton Community College District Financial Audit Report. Dr. Curry. Your audio or your mic is not on.
I forgot to press the button. I'm gonna blame Trustee Calhoun for that one because she's keeping me on top of the button thing. I would like to introduce Bill Rouse, who is our who is our auditor, with Eli Bailey, who's on the call to provide the presentation tonight about our audit, our financial audit. Bill?
Great. Thank you, Dr. Curry. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to go over the June 30th, 2021 audit for the Compton Community College District. And then I have a presentation, so we'll go through that. So next slide, please. All right. So the components of the audit, it obviously is the financial statements. In the audit report on page 1 is the opinion on the auditor's report. You'll see on page 2 where the actual opinion is, and it's an unmodified opinion that basically states, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of Compton Community College as of June 30th, 2021. What that means is that is the highest level of assurance that we can give as auditors over the financial statements of the district, which is very important. If you go out for bonds, bond rating people look at that opinion over the financial statements. Accreditation, that's the first opinion that they look at when they come out. They want to see what was the opinion over the financial statements of the district. And so unmodified opinion is the opinion that you want to receive. Next slide, please. And then starting on page 4 is what we call management's discussion and analysis. And this goes on for page 4 all the way through page 15. And this is where management gets the opportunity to, in a narrative format, to let the readers know what happened during the fiscal year, and kind of brings the financial numbers into a narrative format. And so it kind of tells a story. So I really suggest, if you, like me, if you don't really enjoy reading this 100-page report, if you want to read anything, read the MD&A. There's some really good information in there that will let you know as what happened during the fiscal year and what the forecast is for the budget going into the next fiscal year. Next slide, please. And then starting on pages 16 to 21 are the financial statements. Pages 16 through 19 is the consolidated statement of net position, the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, and the statement of cash flows. I want you to remember, as you're looking at these statements, that this is the district as a whole. So what it does is this format consolidates all the funds of the district into one set of financial statements. In the back of the report, at the request of management, we have included the fund financial statements. So as the board's used to seeing, like the general fund, unrestricted, restricted fund, and all the other funds. But these set of statements right here in the front of the report is everything combined. Basically, we take the financial statements and we make them full accrual. And what that means is that we bring all the long-term assets of the district. So all your buildings, your equipment, the land, we bring that all on the books. And we also bring all your liabilities, liabilities such as OPEB and such as pension liabilities. That all comes on to the statement of financial position. And then on pages 22 through 60, there's notes to the financial statements. That just gives the reader additional information about the numbers that are included in there. It will give the reader information about the fixed assets, about your pension liabilities, about OPEB and of that sort. Next slide, please. So just a highlight for you guys on statement in that position, capital assets, that's on page 33 of the audit report. Your capital assets, like I said, that includes all of your land, buildings, of that sort of equipment, is approximately $175.7 million. Bear in mind that the land of the district is at historical cost, because that's according with generally accepted accounting principles. So the lands, if you look at that note and you think about what says in there, what the worth of the land is, that's at this historical value. That's not the fair market value of the land. So that's just something to point out. The long-term liabilities of the district is on page 34 of the audit report, and that's approximately $166.3 million. Just to give you an idea, some of those are the biggest liability of that $166.3 million is your general obligation bonds, which is about $152.8 million. The great thing about that is there is a revenue source for that, right? So the property taxes that are paid by the taxpayers, that's the money that's used to pay off those general obligation bonds. And then there's also some other liabilities in there in regards to compensated absences of that sort. The next big liability is on page 39, and that's your aggregate net OPEB liability. And that's about $6.7 million. And then the biggest liability out there, I guess in regards to between one individual line item besides the bonds, is the aggregate net pension liability, which is about $45.2 million. And that's on page 49. So that's your Cal STRS and that's your Cal PERS liability that's out there. So basically, that's a liability that exists, and that liability is on the financial statements of the district. Next slide. And then as an auditor, like I said earlier, we give an opinion on the financial statements, and which was unmodified. The second thing we do is we issue a report on the internal controls. So we're required to look at the internal controls, we evaluate them, and we see if there's any recommendations that we can give. On page 81 is the report over the internal controls. And then you will note there on the slide that we did have two internal control findings, 2021-001 and 2021-002, which is on page 89 and 90. Next slide. The next opinion that we give is over the federal awards. And so, as you're well aware, Compton receives federal dollars from the federal government. The majority of it is in the form of student financial aid and also in regards to her funding. I'm happy to report that we were able to issue an unmodified opinion over the federal dollars received. We did have some findings noted, but it didn't affect our opinion. So our opinion was still the highest level assurance that we can give. As you will see here, there was a her finding in regards to reporting, which is on page 92. And then we had some student financial aid findings on page 93 over borrower data and reconciliation over the direct loans. And then we had some reporting, or not, a reporting finding on page 94 in regards to student financial aid. Next slide, please. And then we also had a return to Title IV finding on page 95, and then an enrollment reporting finding on page 96. You can definitely look at all those findings in the audit report. You can see the corrective action plan, which management has put a response in there and how they're going to address these findings and how they're going to correct these issues going forward. Next slide, please. And then the last opinion that we give is over state compliance. The Chancellor's Office every year gives a list of items that we're required to look at. And I'm happy to report that we were able to issue an unmodified opinion over the state compliance areas. And also that we had no findings to report, so there was none reported. So if you look on page 99, you'll see a blank page. That's a good thing. Blank pages are good things. And so that means that there was no areas of findings noted in the audit report. Next slide. And then again, we're required every year to evaluate the findings from the prior year. And on starting on page 100 is where we have our summary schedule of prior audit findings. And so if you look at page 100 through 107, you'll see the status of the 2020 findings, if they were implemented or partially implemented, and if they were carried forward to the new year. Next slide. And basically, in summary, we issued 3 unmodified opinions, like I said earlier, one over the financial statements, one over the federal awards, and one over the state awards. And so those are the 3 opinions that we were able to issue. Like I mentioned, those are the highest level assurance that we can give as auditors. And like I said, we did have noted some findings in the audit report, but we were still able to issue those unmodified opinions. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody might have at this time.
Thank you. Trustee Medina?
No questions.
Trustee Ramos?
No questions. Thank you for the report.
Dr. Little?
No questions, thank you.
Trustee Doublemore?
No questions at the time.
Trustee Calhoun?
I would like to say that thank you for the headache.
Right.
I appreciate it. I read every single page. But once again, I thank you for the headache. It was very enlightening to know about our finances and what's going on with the college and what we can do to improve with our reporting. So I still thank you for the headache. But it was very good. And well, you made it really easy now because I could follow you on the pages that you were talking about because I already read them. So thank you for this report, and I'm looking for the next audit that I always say your name wrong, but I'll say Bailey. I'm looking forward to the next audit that you do of our school and our finances to make sure that we are staying online, on the mark, in the guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Dr. Curry, do you have any comments?
Wonder if we could move the agenda. I have a presenter from Pasadena City College to talk about 18.01 and with regards to their hiring process. And I'm wondering if the board could move to that item before going to the presentation on the budget workshop, just because they're on the line waiting. I want to make sure we utilize their time.
Got it, board members. Dr. Curry is asking us to move up only item 18.01 before we go on to 15.01. Do we have an issue with that?
I make a motion that we do that since they are on the line. I'd like to make a motion that we go to 1801 because this is something that all of us have been talking about.
I second.
All right, the motion has been is on the floor for by Trustee Calhoun, and was a second Trustee Doppelmore?
It was Trustee Little.
Trustee Little, Dr. Little, thank you so much for that. Board members, do we have any discussion? Medina?
No.
Trustee Ramos?
No discussion.
Trustee, Dr. Little?
No discussion.
Trustee Doppelmore?
No discussion, thank you.
Trustee Calhoun?
No discussion.
See no discussion. Sylvia, do you mind doing a roll call for this action?
Trustee Medina,
Yes.
Trustee Ramos,
Aye.
Dr. Little,
Aye.
Trustee Doppelmore,
Aye.
Trustee Calhoun,
Aye.
President Lopez.
Aye. And Dr. Curry, I give you the floor.
Yeah, so this gives me the great pleasure of introducing my colleague from Pasadena City College, Dr. Erica Andrew-Jonas, who is the superintendent president of Pasadena City College. And from my perspective, has done some really good work as relates to faculty, staff, hiring processes. And some of the items the board brought forward at the retreat was about Pasadena City College. So I thought the best way to share what Pasadena City College is doing is to invite them to a board meeting and present. And so I'd like to turn it over to my colleague from Pasadena City College, Dr. Erica Andrew-Jonas.
Well, thank you, Dr. Keith Curry. It is my absolute pleasure to be here, and I am joined by my fabulous Vice President of Human Resources, Mr. Robert Blazinski, or Bob, as he goes by. And we are going to talk about the process that we put into place for our management and classified hiring process. We did this a little over, actually almost 2 years ago. And so with that, we're going to do a little bit of tag team back and forth, and I'm going to have Bob get us started on our presentation. Bob? I know you're in there somewhere.
There I go. I'm talking to myself here. Thank you, everyone, Board of Trustees, guests, and Dr. Curry for inviting us to go through our experimental hiring process that we've employed this past year and a half. I want to talk a little bit. We were looking at our hiring processes as we have been doing them for the past 30 years at Pasadena City College and similar to other community colleges. And the experience is fairly the same, where we invite candidates to come interview after we review their qualifications. They come into a fairly large committee kind of environments and answer a series of 10 to 12 questions and then go home. Looking at one of Dr. Endrogenis's main goals when she came to the campus was to close the equity gaps for our students. It was a charge to all the departments to look at how could you assist in the ways that you do your business in helping us achieve that goal. Human Resources has kind of a limited view on that, except because we really don't hire people, but we facilitate the process. And the only other way that we can do that is by holding folks accountable, which is not the funnest thing for human resource professionals to do, like anyone else. But for that, we decided we were going to look at how we were going to hire people and bring people in a more equitable fashion, a more fair and robust fashion. And so we did some research and looked at how were we going to do, or how are there ways that we could do that? And one of the ways we looked at was the blind screening, which is commonly known at, and we have corrected that to fit the needs of our students and our population to say redacted screening. So you'll hear me use those terms interchangeably throughout these next 12 slides. So if I can have the next slide, please. Is this, yeah. So blind screening or redacted screening, as we're going to use it moving forward, really started in the late 1970s. In all places, believe it or not, is Toronto, Canada, where the symphony had a very large population when they looked at it of their people in their orchestra as being primarily white males. And there was very, very little diversity in the ranks of individuals who were being hired to perform. So in the early mid 1980s, they had decided to employ a way to screen actual applicants or performers behind a curtain and just listen to the music that they had played. And they had done such things as making sure that the candidates did not actually introduce themselves, that they put carpeting on the floor to ensure that there was no, that you couldn't tell if someone who was wearing heels or not. So it was trying to be a total anonymous kind of situation. The closest thing we can get to in today's, I guess, comparison would be 2021 version of The Voice, where actually it's that same kind of setup where people can't actually see who's actually auditioning for the job, or in this case, the prize. And so we wanted to see how we could employ that in our hiring practices, albeit there's obviously some differences. Next slide, please. So we truly believe, after doing our research, that the blind screening process should level the playing field for everyone, in so much as people will be judged on the initial review of their application materials on just the merits of what they're bringing to the position, and not necessarily who they are, where they've been, what schools they've attended, and who they may know. So we have employed a system of redacting information from the credentials that are being presented, so that we can obscure as best we can to the selection advisory committee members those characteristics that would play into somebody's biases. So the goal was really to see, at the end of the day, was were we going to increase the diversity of our candidates and also the quality of our candidates as they moved from the application phase of the interview into the first phase of our interview process. Dr. Endrogenis, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I'll go to the next slide and I'll take that one. So basically what we wanted to do was make sure that because there was so much focus on who were we actually hiring. So the big focus was, well, tell us who the person is who was hired and then work backwards. What we felt we needed to do was instead ensure that we had a broad range of folks who are making it to the initial interview stage. And our administrative procedure, especially around our management hiring, was outdated. And we decided that we would start with our management hiring, since that's what we have the most control over. And then we spread to our classified. and we can talk in a minute about faculty hiring. So basically, we were looking for ways, how do we eliminate bias during that original screening process? And there are lots of ways to do it, both before the process begins as well as once it has begun. So part of the process was to ensure that as we were doing job descriptions, we actually were working with the USC Center on Race and Equity to make sure that our job descriptions themselves had been reviewed for bias, for unconscious bias in terms of how we describe tasks. We also use a product that they have, Prism, which is a way to ensure that we can get our jobs out to as many folks from a broad range of backgrounds. So it's not just what do you put in the Chronicle of Higher Education, where are all of the places we can be looking for these folks. And then another thing was looking at the requirements. And I did insist on this for faculty hiring and got a lot of pushback, but I still felt it was important. And that was to reduce the number of documents and items that people had to submit as part of the application process, because all of the research out there indicates that the more you ask candidates to do on the front end, the less likely your pool is to be diverse. And so it was as simple as, we don't ask for transcripts. We don't ask for letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation are one of the biggest barriers to a diverse pool, because it assumes that every individual out there feels comfortable, feels entitled to going to somebody who can recommend them. And if you look, it's a very white culture, white privilege model of job application processes. So no letters of recommendation, no additional statements. Really what you need to apply is to fill out the application, to submit a letter of application, as well as a resume. We also, as I noted, targeted where do we want to look? We work with the area when we were looking for staff within our division of equity and justice. We went to the discipline experts and said, where should we look? What journals haven't we placed ads in? What website should we be looking at? And then also what was important was beginning to change the role of the EEO rep that is part of the hiring process. And that means having consistency. So a single person who starts at the review of application stage all the way through to the completion, but also an empowerment model where that EEO individual has the ability to say, yeah, you can't do that. You know, it used to just be, oh, it's the HR person in the room. And that is not the role of the EEO person. So Bob, back to you for the next slide.
So as we know, there's been lots of studies done in regards to, and we've probably seen this on 2020 and What Would You Do kind of TV shows that talk about same applicants or same resumes, different applicants based on race and name. And we saw many times, you can see, and we've experienced, where people who have Black sounding names do not get the call back, and where names that are similar to like an Emily Walsh in this particular study, or a Craig Baker, which are very white sounding names, those folks with the same identical resumes that were tested with Lakeisha Washington and Jim Earl Jones, the prior two individuals were getting the interviews, and the latter two were not being extended, even though the identical resumes were submitted to the identical companies, which is very interesting to note that the same people reviewing once the resumes are seeing the same resume, but not actually knowing that they have seen the same resume, but still inviting people based on a bias. That's inclusive of other such factors too that we'll go in a little bit more. Same thing with gender, and we'll see another presentation. There's a presentation in this presentation that will review that for us. We can go to the next slide, please. This is a video that we have produced for both our staff, and we eventually show it to our candidates when they come for their first interview. Are you guys getting the volume?
Yeah, we're not hearing sound.
Oh, well, then we might need to move on to the next slide then if it's
Yeah.
on.
Okay.
So the process that we employed when we did this was, first we wanted to kind of blow up what we were currently doing. And we really wanted to make the experience of interviewing a more positive one for both the candidates, because we do view this portion of the process, the interview process, primarily as a marketing tool for the institution. So we do want people to have at least a good opportunity when they come through. So that was one of the impetuses for change. And we wanted to make sure that people were not walking out of here saying this was the worst experience. But our process also involved actually setting and creating a goal. And our goal was to, not that our diversity efforts were poor, when we looked at our actual pools of applicants that we had prior in prior pools, but we wanted to see if we could prove them by any significant amount. And we'll talk about that data moving forward. So our goal was to increase that. The ways that we did this was, of course, Dr. Androgenis mentioned our job description development and review. We also we had to decide what demographic information were we planning on hiding or obscuring on the credentials that were being provided. We wanted to develop a good pre-employment assessment rating form, which was actually only things that could be taken off of a resume and not presupposed by knowing the candidate and where they may be from. So we've looked at that pre-assessment when people are looking at the candidates and saying, is this evident on the actual documentation that's being presented, without making any presumptions based on, well, I know they went to X school, so they've had this experience because they went where I went to school, or they lived where I live, so they went to this high school. Those conversations take place a lot when we're going through the review process, and we tried to mitigate that because of that. We also do competency-based hiring, which we'll talk a little bit more, and how we do that and employ that. We've made it very clear through our EEO reps as they do their training with each advisory selection committee. We go through extensive training, even though everyone has been EEO trained to be on the committee. We also have a pretty extensive review of the EEO policies, and we have that conversation about bias yet again when we meet with our committees, and by reinforcing that message. So one of the things that we really try, because curiosity, will kill the cat on this one, is that we really will actually pull somebody off of a advisory selection committee if they actually go back and we find out that they have went and used social media to try to identify who the candidate is that is in front of them. And so we really have discouraged that. And we have even considered for the initial interviews, now that we've been doing most of our interviews, our first level interviews online, doing those interviews somewhat behind the curtain as well, although that doesn't account for the voice conversation that we're having today. But other than that, we were thinking that we could do it in some sort of an obscure way of interviewing so that we can't see the background, the office, the race of the individual, how they're dressed, those kinds of things that affect people's decision. The next thing that we did, which was very important, was we had to train our HR business partners and the hiring managers on unconscious bias, which is part of the committee education process. We do the values of diversity. Of course, that is preeminent in everything that we do at the institution. So that's in everyone's face all the time, every day, every opportunity we get, we make sure that that is a part of our conversation. And then we talked about how we're going to actually interview people. one of the biggest changes is that we've gone into, everybody gets asked the same questions, but we now allow some sort of conversation or some sort of follow-up questions to allow, once again, that the experience that people are having at our institution is a good one, and that there's a deep interest in getting to know the candidates and allowing them to do that with us. One of the biggest things I would say is to start small and not try to do this for your entire institution. We actually started with our management personnel. It was to see how that was going to work. When we had our successes and we had some stumbling blocks, we moved on to our classified personnel with little or no pushback from any of those groups in this change. It was kind of a unilateral change with very little or no pushback. And Dr. Androgenis can talk about the faculty response because we're still working with them on trying to convince them of the value of this methodology of hiring.
Yeah, I think the short story on that is they're not convinced yet. So we are continuing to collect data and to demonstrate how diversified the pools are, as well as how individuals from different backgrounds work their way through the process and the end result. And the faculty has, we work with our faculty leadership on it. I think the Senate only has one more meeting this academic year, so it's not going to get handled this year, but they do have some changes to their hiring AP. And so we'll address it again in the fall, and we will have even more results to share with them. Data, that's the key.
The next slide will show what we redact from resumes currently. The applicant's name, if they had a former name, we looked that up actually behind the scenes, their address, phone number, email, date of birth. Believe it or not, people still put driver's license numbers and their picture on resumes and credentials. And social security number, those are primarily from international individuals because that is what is standard fare outside of the United States. The institution names that they've attended and their education start dates and graduation dates. So we obscure all of that information primarily through our product that we use, NeoEd does some of that, but we actually read every cover letter and every resume, and we go through it twice with 2 different HR business partners to review to make sure that we catch as much data. So it is very time consuming to do this. There are some products out there in the market that we're testing to see if it would work for us. One of the ways around this is we may stop taking resumes and may ask applicants to everybody fill out the same form, application form, if you will, that's a little bit more detailed than our current application so that everybody's credentials look the same, they're presented the same, and we specifically ask certain questions to avoid all of these things that would bring bias to an applicant. There are obviously, next slide, some disadvantages to this process, and the one disadvantage to this is that obviously people are going to show up in front of you eventually. And so we once again have to continually have these conversations with our committees. It's one way of the delay in discriminating once you get people to the table and now you can actually see them. But our pools do not, our advisory members do not know who is coming to the interview until the day that they actually show up. So all they know is they've invited candidate 579, 682 and 747. Those are the ones who are showing up that day for the interview. They don't actually see the actual credentials of those individuals until they show up that day for their interview. So that's to try to keep this as shut down as we possibly can. So that's one of the things that we do. But once again, we have raised the bar so high throughout the entire process that we have had actually the exact opposite of the delay in discrimination. Our hiring has been significantly more diverse than it has been in the past. So that's one of the disadvantages of the blind hiring process or redacted process. The Selection Advisory Committee, there's been some changes on how we kind of operate those committees. Next slide, please. One is in the name, so this is more procedural, but we did get out of the vernacular of hiring committees. Because we did definitely have the role of hiring committees was not to actually hire people, but to provide guidance to the hiring manager. And we had some miscommunications at our institution of understanding what the role actually was. So we tried to better define it in this manner. We went through competency-based interviews. This is nothing new to anyone. But it is asking a series of questions surrounding various competencies related to the job. So let's take a competency in leadership. Instead of just asking the one leadership question that we would ask in a large group, we would ask several questions about leadership in the competency group. So we would take each of the 10 members, we would have 3 different groups. The candidate actually interviews for 3 hours with each group, an hour per group, and they all have different competencies on which they are going to spend their hour with, asking particular questions to that candidate. So this is similar to the university model that some of you might have experienced, is that you interview for a good part of the afternoon. And the way that we don't repeat questions is to give each group a different set of questions based on competencies that they can really drill down with the candidate. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is we wanted to get out of what is called the groupthink mentality that takes place in committee meetings, where you have a large group of folks in a room and we have power plays and political, and I know this person and I want them to get the job and I want you to change your score because I think they're better than you did. So we have eliminated that by not allowing scores to change once the groups get together after they've scored them in their competency groups. So the 3 people in this group will score for the 4 competencies. They're not the same as the other groups, obviously, but when they all come together, we do not allow for changing of the scores. And so that has given our candidates a fair shot based on what they've presented in their interviews, as opposed to who they know, what they look like, who they may be affiliated with, what institution they went to. So that information has helped us make a score, I think, fair and give everybody a level playing field.
And if I can just say, it's also demonstrated on the back end where there is bias.
Yes.
And it has been very clear, especially when you have 3 competency groups that come together on the same set of candidates, you can see bias on the backside.
Yes. It also allows us to break up, when we break these groups up into different competency groups, it allows us to break up alliances that may be already been defined on how that committee was structured. So if we know that the faculty put certain people on the committee just to make sure that they got their candidate through that they wanted for the dean, we might break up those folks into different groups so that they don't have that same power that they would have in the larger group. So it has worked very well. It has frustrated people, but we do believe in the end that the candidates got the better shot at competing with the larger groups.
So I see a hand up. We have one more slide that has the data, and then we'll take questions. I think it'd be easier if we did that all at once. So do you want to go ahead with this?
So the data that we have presented here is from 2018, 2019. These are our last 10 management. So these percentages are the percentages of diverse candidates in the pools that were moved along from the assessment of their credentials into the interview process. And so you can take a look at the numbers in 2018, 2019. 2020, 2021 is when we employed this experiment of the blind screening as far as it related to the application materials that were presented. And you see that we've had some significant differences in the diversity of our applicant pools. And I would say not that our applicant pools were bad in 2018 or 19, but they were significantly better in 2020, 2021. Can we necessarily say that that was the redacted screening, blind screening effort by itself? I probably would be remiss in assuming that that was the only factor that brought this about. I think it is the awareness level, the fact that we changed our job descriptions, we market our jobs differently, but I think as part of the entire package, it clearly does have an impact and the sensitivity is greater. So as you can see, we've had a 5.4% increase in our Hispanic population, a 22.2% increase in the Black population that got moved on from where we were the year before. Our Asian Pacific population went up 5%, and our white populations remained consistently across the process at about 40%. Well, what we did see is that we saw a decline. So we did see more people actually identify in this new process than they did before. So there are probably some reasons as to that. So any questions that Dr. Androgenis and I can handle?
We'll start off with Trustee Medina.
Question, but thank you for the comprehensive.
Trustee Ramos.
No, thank you for this very detailed presentation.
Dr. Little.
Thank you so much for this very robust conversation and really for the leadership and modeling. Just a couple of questions, and I know it's early into, just a couple of years, but wanted to know if you can go back to the redacted information.
The redacted info?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I really appreciate the intentionality of setting up the system well before the process embarks upon, in terms of the structure of the committee, the questions, it sounds like, of the committee in terms of the 3 different categories. I'm wondering, in the early findings, does any of this redacted information still emerge in the qualitative interviews with candidates in a different form? And if so, how do you all identify that? And is there a way to mitigate against it or in response to it?
Bob, you want
especially around school name. And as I'm thinking about competencies around subject matter, for example, and while school names can definitely be harmful in terms of identification or status or location or geography, I'm wondering how people demonstrate without some practical experiential, activity, their knowledge, or what do they use as a reference to kind of state their credentials when they've been accustomed to these more traditional ways.
So when the individuals actually show up for their interview, their full credentials are finally seen by the committee. So the committee gets their credential probably 15 minutes before the candidate actually shows. So the candidate doesn't necessarily know that we've done a blind screening process at this point. The only people who are aware of that are the advisory selection committees, but they will get all of this information after their questions have been developed.
Yeah, so the questions are developed ahead of time. And I think, the other piece of it too, Dr. Little, is I think what we have to do is continue to do anti-bias training, and because it's going to be training. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate the most, is that it's easy for folks to say, okay, I've already done EEO training, so I'm good to go. And I think we just need to keep doing it, because you're right, that is an imperfect part of the process, because obviously when a candidate is before them, and if they start asking, do you have, can you give us an example of whatever, the candidate is going to reveal information. They are going to see them, those other things are going to be there. So I think it's how do we mitigate it up to that point? And then how do we continue training and working on folks understanding what our expectation is about addressing, about making sure folks are aware of unconscious bias and dealing with it head on.
Yes, because I know, obviously, thank you so much for acknowledging that at any stage, of
Mhm.
engagement with people, whether it's prior to seeing them or when seeing them. I'm wondering, and I apologize if I missed this, if they have a ranking of candidates before they start seeing them in person, merely based upon, okay, so they don't.
No, they just know they just know, and Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, they know who they're interviewing, they find out 15 minutes ahead of time and then they're right there. But in terms of how they were ranked to get to that point, they do not know what their ranking number is. And as Bob said, it's a small group. If they're only giving scores on the competencies that they're seeing, so they have no idea what's happening in those other two small groups. And so the first time they see the composite score for an individual candidate is after all scores have been submitted and the scores are revealed, not who gave which score, and you can't change the scores at that time. So the numbers are the numbers are the numbers. So the days of 10 people around a table at the compilation point, like, oh, well, if I raise this score, then this person will make it in to the top four or whatever it is.
So they look at the content and then they compile. So you guys have a composite score based upon a rubric, and they rank it and they score it. And then, okay. So then really how they shape and put together their application is also, I think, would be a good area for continued discussion, where we look at professional preparation versus the person. And that too, unfortunately, could seep out with status and resources. But thank you guys.
And I think part of that too is that, I think we know that there's often a bias. If somebody has gone to Harvard, that can be oh, they went to Harvard, they must be great. But there's also the bias of, oh, they went to Harvard, then they don't have lived experience, so they're not going to understand our students. So there's an unconscious bias in both directions. So we need to make sure that we help the people who are on the screening committees to understand that, it can go both ways, and we need to watch the unconscious bias no matter what.
Thank you. Final question, I apologize. So do you actually list degrees, or do you, along with the school name and start and end date and graduation date, which can age someone or at least give some reference, do you say if they have graduate degrees, or you just assume they meet the requisite requirements? Right.
No, I'm sorry. No, actually, the degrees, we allow the degrees to be shown. That is there, but we take out the institution that they've attended.
I see. Okay.
And the years that they provided it. We don't provide the years
the years that they graduate. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you guys so much. Look
you're
forward to learning more.
See double more.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, hello, Dr. Erica and Mr. Bob. Thank you so very much for the presentation. And I would just like to add, Dr. Erica, you mentioned about the process. You said that you're still in the collection phase, and that the individuals are not yet quite convinced on this process.
Oh, the faculty. Yeah.
Yes. So my question is to ask the feedback when you have reached out to them for feedback, if you are at liberty to share, some of the comments, recommendations or suggestions that was provided to you, if there were any, on how to kind of move this process along. If you could just kind of share some of the feedback that you received from the faculty.
So I'll start by saying that the faculty, the leadership of our faculty senate, the folks who are in those roles have served on I don't know, Bob, maybe 5 or 6 management hiring committees, or and so they've had this experience. So they've seen how it works firsthand. And I think it is, I think that academic senate folks aren't necessarily resistant to it. It's more, how do you put it, how do you operationalize it? And, you know, they have, in some cases, watched me have to come in and say, I know you all want to ask for a philosophy of teaching statement, or I know you want a separate portfolio of something. What I've recommended to the senators, and this is what we've done with management hiring as well, is if there are particular things that you would like to see in the cover letter that you want a candidate to address, then let's tell them what it is. And again, I think that that's a mistake that we make within hiring. I think it's very much a white privilege model that is out there in hiring. And that is, we're not going to tell you what we want. We're going to see if you can guess. And so I think it's really just about shifting the idea. It's not that the information can't be there. It's about how you get the information and how you get it in such a way that causes fewer barriers for the people who apply. And so what the Academic Senate leadership has said is, you know, we'd like to see more numbers. We'd like to see what the impact is. We'd like to see basically how it can be implemented in a way that faculty, when they're sitting on committees, screening for their future colleagues, they feel like they can get the information they need. And so I think it's really a learning process, but some of it rests with us. You know, some of it rests with us coming up with ways to approach it that meets the needs of the faculty. Bob, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think as all faculty, you know, the pedigree perspective is preeminent with a lot of our faculty. They went to these institutions, so therefore they have this experience. Once again, it's been hard for them to let go of that particular piece, is what school did they go to? Because that definitely means they have a certain level of aptitude, which none of the research would actually suggest that that's necessarily true. And the other piece is we're not asking for degrees from specific, we look at what we're asking for in the job. We're not asking for a specific coursework or specific degrees from specific institutions. If we were, then that should be on the announcement of what's going out. And so, but those biases, I mean, it's ironic because they really want to hold on to those biases and not let go, because that's what they think makes a difference. And so they have struggled with that on their management hiring committees, because they all want to know, where did this person go to school? And you know, if they went to Indiana State, that's the best program in the whole world, and we must hire that person, regardless of maybe how well they interviewed.
Yeah.
You know.
So, but it's, you know, it's looking at comfort level, and it's looking at how did they get hired and what was their experience. And I think that's all part of the learning process to help to basically talk about unconscious bias comes in a lot of different forms, and it may not feel like bias. So I think it's really our job to work with the Academic Senate to figure out the best way to diversify their pools, because the Academic Senate leadership especially is very dedicated to diversifying the faculty, is very dedicated to making sure that our college more and more reflects the students that we serve. They are working towards liberatory education. That's their goal for this year and the coming year. So, you know, the will is there. It's just getting us on the same path in terms of how we get there.
Yes, and thank you. That goes back to the question. Thank you both very much for that clarification. And that goes back to the comment that you said, it's like just more training. So it sounds like that you guys are very colorful. And I'm looking at the redacted screen as I say that. And it looks like that you guys are very, very, very dedicated to this work that you're doing. And I appreciate you bringing this example to us here tonight, and you know, being very transparent with some of the challenges that you're making and some of the feedback that you are receiving, and how to change the process and just make it acceptable, I guess you could say, so we can move the needle forward. Again, I thank you very much for your time tonight
Oh, you're
and for
welcome.
providing that clarification. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, you know, it's you have one of the champions out there, Dr. Curry, as your superintendent president, and he is, you know, just an amazing force when it comes to DEI work. So I'm happy to be in his company on this.
Yes, absolutely. And again, thank you for sharing and being with us here tonight. Very, very, very insightful information.
Great. Thank you. You're welcome.
Calhoun.
Yes, thank you for this. Ever since one of your board trustees, Linda Waugh, helped me get on the DEI, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and now they added an A, which means access. I have been talking about this ever since then. So I've been on this since last year. All right. Now I just have, so thank you for this fantastic report. And I know that we could get a copy of this PowerPoint, but I have a question because you've been talking about the faculty. So I'm gonna say this two different ways, or how does the system work with classified employees in a merit system? Or how could this work with classified employees in a merit system? Is there any difference?
So we don't have a merit system. We are not a personnel commission college. So I couldn't say how it would work. Bob, would you like to handle that? Lob it over to you.
No, we kind of stepped out on a limb of changing the traditional community college way of hiring in our own system. Personnel commissions, this would be a radical change for those folks.
Yes.
And throw them really outside their comfort zone.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because they primarily rely on testing. You know, they put people through a testing protocol. If you pass a test, you know, and how, you know, and if you do well, you get moved on to the next phase, and then get an interview. So I do not know how they could employ this.
And I've worked in 2 merit districts. I worked in the Ventura district as well as in the LACCD. I do not know how it could be operationalized in a merit district, especially if you have classified doing this. So you'd have this entire universe here, but then management and faculty would be completely different. Just my knowledge of how it works in that type of operation. So I think that would be a challenge.
Okay, well then, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna throw this over to Dr. Curry because
I think that's a great idea.
You gave such a good kudos and everything. So Dr. Curry, can you look into this?
Yes, I will.
Just one more topic for him to work on.
You know what? I like to watch. I love watching Keith get assigned work. So I'm all in favor of that.
I'm a colleague for passing.
Thank you. Oh, thank you for this fantastic report because you don't know how much I've been looking forward to this. Dr. Curry and even some of the staff can tell you I've been talking about applications. Really have.
Well, you are quite welcome. Our pleasure.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Moving on to item 15.01, 2022-2023 budget workshop, Dr. Curry. Your mic is off.
That was Trustee Calhoun who did that. I would like to introduce Dr. Nasser to provide a update on the budget. It's a couple slides, so it takes about 5 to 7 minutes. Dr. Nasser.
Thank you, Dr. Curry. President Lopez, boards of trustees. Can you put the PowerPoint presentation up, please? Oh, thank you. So as Dr. Curry said, we're going to talk about the budget workshop. If you could get through the other slide, please. Talk about 3 items. The college goals, California state budget, and the preliminary budget assumptions. Next slide, please. So this is the 21-22 goals. This afternoon, the Consultative Council was actually looking at the 22-23 draft goals.
So at a future meeting, we will present to you the future goals. And the themes are pretty much, what can we do to have the students graduate as quickly as possible without getting too many, classes and fulfill the requirement. We want to grow the enrollment. And of course, we want to complete our accreditation requirements. Next page, please. We want to have attractive facilities, and we want to make sure that we have partnerships with schools. And then number 6, we want to create a sense of community among our folks here at the college. The budget, it's hot in here, huh? So the California Community College, the state budget. So in January, the governor proposed his preliminary budget. That's what he does in January. In May, he's going to revise a budget. This first slide talks about his ongoing propositions. It's a pretty healthy budget, 5.33% COLA and a 0.5% growth. There's $200 million for part-time faculty health, some grants. And so, but again, I want to remind you that in May, he will have a revised budget. And so these numbers could change. Next slide, please. So these are the one-time funding proposals, deferred maintenance, and that's pretty good. We got some good funding to support our facilities, adult ed, healthcare vocational programs, and the emergency financial aid assistance as well for the AB 540 students. Next page, please. So our budget assumptions, of course, we want to continue the implementation of student-centered funding formula. We are at hold harmless 5980 FTE. We want to continue to pay the retirement system. As you see the next bullet there, pension rates are going up. We are projecting a 25.4%, an increase from 22.9 for the PERS and 19.1 from 16.2 for the CalSTRS. So our budget has to accommodate for that increased cost. Next page, please. Continuing on the assumptions, we are planning on hiring 7 new faculty positions. And so those are identified there. Actually, the process has started of the hiring. If you go to the next slide, please. And we're going to have one-time augmentations. As you can see, enrollment management. Enrollment is our goal, is really what we want to focus on. And so we are setting aside $600,000 for that effort, $250,000 for one-time enhancements. Last month, you approved the line of credit and the payment of the line of credit sooner than what was anticipated. 25, 26, we should be fully paid up. And so that's just basically a reflection of that. We want to continue to contribute to OPEB. So our liability is funded, and then $200,000 for the PERS and STRS contribution. Next slide, please. And we want to, of course, have reserves for the ERP system, which is our Illusion banner system. We want to have funds reserved for the personnel commission and $350,000 for the College Fire Academy equipment. Next slide, please. And we want to transfer some transfers here, one for property and liability, $400,000, $150,000 to operate the child care center. There are 4 items under capital outlay. The first 2, VAPA and PE complex, primarily to address any additional costs as a result of inflation and cost increases. We also want to set aside $1.3 million in computer replacements. So in the next 7 years, all our computers will be replaced within the time frame. So the computers that the students will use will be all up to date. And so that funding will take us through 2027. And then $150,000 for the housing, the quality, environmental quality study. And that's the end of my presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Trustee Benzino.
No questions.
Trustee Ramos.
No questions. Thank you for the quick summary.
Dr. Little.
Thank you again for the great report. No questions.
Trustee Dopplemore.
No comments at this time. Thank you.
Trustee Calhoun.
Please.
No. I don't have any questions this time because I went through that PowerPoint and then I called.
Okay.
So my questions were answered.
All right.
But I like this report. I do see that our retirements, the STIRs, they're really moving on up there.
And we won't know the final numbers until June, but
Until
this is
June.
what we have now.
Okay, well,
This estimate.
no, this is a good report. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nasser. Appreciate that. Moving on to item number 6, consent agenda. Board members, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by trustee Calhoun and seconded by trustee Ramos. Do we have any discussion? Trustee Medina,
No discussion.
trustee Ramos?
I have a quick question on purchase orders.
So if you could just give me the item number and then we'll go back to discussing it. You know, the item number that you're specifically, is it 16.09?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Dr. Little,
No questions, thank you.
trustee Dopplemore,
16.04, I think is, hold on a second. 16, 01, 04, 10. Oh, not 10, I'm sorry. And 16.
so that's 16.1, 4, and 16, correct?
1,
4, and 16, because you removed 10.
4, 10.
Oh, wait, so you want to keep 10, got it.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. 16 is like a, that is, I know what that one is because I see the name. So no 10.
So it's only 3 items is what I want to confirm.
And 16.
1,
Yes.
4, 16. Got it. Thank you. Trustee Calhoun, I know you normally email and then Dr. Curry puts the responses. Is there any other items that you want to pull or discuss?
No, Dr. Curry sent all the board members and the student trustee the questions that I had and the answers. And he normally puts it in the chat if anybody wants to see the questions asked and the answers that were given.
Thank you so much. Going to 16.01, trustee Dopplemore.
On 16.1, can I have an example? I believe this is the one on double time. Maybe I have it wrong. No, I'm sorry. Not 16.1. It's actually 1603. The multiple overlapping enrollment. So not 1, but 03.
Board policy 4226. Do you want to list your question and then we'll have Dr. Curry address it?
You want to put it in the chat?
No. If you can list your question.
1603. Can I have an example? Because the wording in those 2 paragraphs for 1603, it seemed to be very similar. And it references article Title 5, section 55007. Can I have an example of multiple overlapping enrollment?
Sherry Berger.
So, oops, sorry.
multiple overlapping enrollments would be if a student wanted to enroll in a class that say went from 8 to 10 and another class that started say at 9:45 and went to 11, there would be a 15-minute overlap. So this policy prohibits the students from enrolling in classes where they can't attend both classes because you can't be in two different classes at the same time. Also, Title V and the Student Attendance Accounting Manual does not allow us to collect apportionment, FTES, for students enrolled in more than 50 minutes in any 60-minute hour. So this policy prevents students from enrolling in two classes at the same time and maintains and ensures that we're able to collect our apportionment.
Thank you. So the recommendation on this, it would be if that's thank you so very much for that clarification on that example, because I was trying to read that and say, how can people be enrolled in, how can you be in two places at the same time as well? So are all the classes, the way the classes, the different times, are they staggered to to kind of prevent this type of barrier for the students to be enrolled in that class?
So we have established this year we established a new grid of block times based on the standard 3-hour class, the standard 3-hour lecture class, so that all classes either start or end on one of those grid times. 4 hours and 5 hours and 6-hour classes may have some overlap just because of the length of the hours. But again, by requiring classes to start or end on the grid time, it eliminates much of that overlap and permits the students more opportunities to enroll in classes at a full load during the daytime hours.
Well, thank you. So what is needed to remove this or amend or revise this Title V, to implement this this grid block time that you just spoke of?
So sure. So the Trustee Doppelmore is not about just amending Title V.
Mm-hmm.
So having conversations about scheduling at Compton. And I feel the direction that Sherry Berger actually worked with the Academic Senate, they worked on this policy as well, is really focusing on to make sure that we don't have students overlapping. But I think our schedule is getting better over time, but it takes more dialogue with the division chairs and counselors to identify what classes to be offered, but then making sure that if a student is a particular major and they're on campus, that there's no overlap between those classes, because that means what happens is that the student might take class here, but then go to Long Beach City or Cerritos to another community college to take the other class that they need, because the class is not offered at the next time slot that it's available. So the students here on campus, they can take 2 classes and be done by 12 versus taking 1 class and have to go to another community college because our schedule overlaps. So this policy helps out our faculty, division chairs, and also the deans and the vice president as they develop the schedule, where it can be more student friendly versus not being student friendly. And so I think this direction that we're headed is a perfect direction. And we're not asking for amendments to Title V. I think Title V provides us with guidance as it relates to this board policy. But for us, it's about having this board policy reviewed and updated and getting buy-in from the Academic Senate, which has occurred.
Okay, great. That's good. Okay, thank you. Anything we can do to remove the barriers for our students' success. So thank you. And also thank you, Dr. Curry, for that additional comment as well on that. Thank you.
16.04 is your next one.
Yes, on 1604, if you let me see, let me get it up on the proposed calendar. And so what I would like, just a suggestion, is on the pages 1 and 2, 1, 2, where you have like you have the different sessions and they're color coded. Down at the bottom where you put different sessions, if there is a way, because I know that there's some days, some hours that are at question here as well. So if you could put, so for fall, if you could put the number of days that students are actually in session full time, and as well, if you could put the flex days, the dates that the students are out, like no classes, so just all the color-coded sections down at the bottom. If just as a key, if you can add the number of days for each one of those sessions. I do believe that it's approximately green and the blue semesters. They're 16. I didn't actually count the summer time period as well. And if we could also just make notation of the number of actual flex days that we have. And moving down to the other, to give a breakdown of the different sessions where you get into that, where it actually has the days of the week, the calendar days and the years. If maybe color coding that as well. So we have the days of when, say, a session or a period would open for enrollment, when that time period would close, the days when students actually submit their days for graduation, so on and so forth, and when those days close. I'm not sure if this calendar, if this is something more for the students, if it is more for the faculty and staff, but if we can have a different calendar to ensure that there is no overlap, no disparities, no conflicts for when days actually have to, when enrollment periods begin, and filing deadlines, when things open and close. I think if we have a calendar that would work best for everyone, faculty, staff, students, so on and so forth, that information would be very helpful.
So, Trustee Doppelmore, I will take your notes into consideration, and I will share them with the calendar committee as they develop the next two calendars as we move forward. This calendar has already went through the process, and you don't have time to go back and make the recommendations that you provided today to be able to move forward with the development of our class schedule. And so we would take the recommendation back to the committee and let the committee provide some input and insight, and then for the next two calendars.
Okay, so that calendar, so this particular calendar here is for 22, 23, correct?
But you also have to do this process. Is not just about the calendar, is a contractual piece with the faculty that we have to make sure that we have an academic calendar, and certain things have to be negotiated. Some of these that you're asking for is about the student interface as relates to calendar and what happens as it relates to students. So that's another question that I'll send back to the calendar committee to talk about the calendar from a student perspective and what does that look like. But for this item is more about the workload and the days that faculty are responsible to teach, and also regards to professional development days. And so this is outlined, and we worked very hard over the last 6 to 9 months to get to this point, and to have this come back today to make the changes you recommend. I don't think it's feasible for our organization to do that because we have to move this forward. However, we'll take your recommendations back to the committee and let them have a conversation about it and provide an update to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Now, there was a question, can I just continue on this one for a little bit? There's a question that was asked about the 410 days for the classified employees. As I have stated previously to the classified bargaining unit, is that a negotiated, that's negotiated item where the district determines the 4 to 10 days, the 410 days for the summer. Just so you know, as we move forward, we always look at the 410, and one of the things that we look at is how the summer is scheduled regards to the first week of summer school, and then also when we return back for the second week in August, because that second week in August we do have trainings, because the third week is when we start our professional development week, and so we try to end the 410s the first week of August, and then we try to open it up for during the first week of the summer session for the 410s to begin. And the reason why we do that is if we're open the Friday before, that will help with our enrollment for the upcoming term. And then the summer in August, we're open on a Friday, August 12th, to be able to provide that service as well to students. And from my perspective, that's what's in the best need of our students, is for the 410s to be done that way. But the contract language is very clear that the district determines the 410 days. And it's not an item that we have to negotiate with the classified bargaining unit, because the language is clear, but we do share with them what the days are as it relates to the summer. And it changes. Some days, some summers it could be 7, some summers it could be 8. It all depends on the academic calendar. And I think this past calendar was kind of shaky because of some of the dates as it relates to I think it's the start of the fall semester. Am I correct, Sherry?
The calendar for this year, I can't speak to what the issue is, but I know that in the 23-24 calendar, we're going to have a different start date for the fall in week of August. It's going to be a little bit later, so that will impact the number of weeks, because we'll actually start a little later than we normally do.
So Dr. Curry, what you're saying is that is reflected in the months. That would be like, for example, for this August, that what you're speaking of is would be, for example, August 16 and 18. Is that correct? Is that
what I'm reflecting upon is that the last day for this one, for the Friday off, is August 5th. And then August 12th is the day that we're back to the 5 days.
Okay. Okay. Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Uh, 16.09. Trustee Ramos.
Yeah, under general fund unrestricted, towards the middle, where it's 109,000 Long Beach Unified School District. What is that for?
What's great about this is I know to answer the question. This has to do with our instructional service agreement. I think last month you approved the new contract, or the instructors for CAMS, but this is our instructional service agreement with CAMS to provide some Project Lead the Way courses. So we're paying them for the course, and then we collect FTS for them.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
And this has been a yearly item.
16.16.
If I may, I just have a question on 1616 with the group. I noticed that swim is in, do they have a like a local, office here? Because I noticed that the address on their letterhead is Tampa, Florida.
No, they don't, but they're a nationally recognized group that's providing services to colleges throughout the country as relates to enrollment management. The reason why this was brought forward, because I asked the staff to bring it forward, because we're looking at doing an RFP, as I mentioned in my newsletter, for additional help from a firm. However, we're still waiting for the outreach and marketing plan, the outreach and recruitment calendar and plan to be reviewed by the Academic Senate this next week. And so I want to make sure that we don't lose our opportunity for enrollment for summer and also for fall. And so that's why I want to continue the services that SWIM has been helping us with, and our staff has been working on that. And so at the end of the day, our goal is to have a firm provide additional services as well. But when you look at some of these marketing firms, some could be local, some could be nationwide. It all depends, but it's all based off the service they can provide to support your students and your student enrollment.
Okay, and the reason, thank you, Dr. Curry, for that. For that clarification, my only concern and the reason why I bring this up is because I just wanted to know if there were other, say, local firms, and if there was a bid process going through to seek an additional firm or a local firm that can do this work. That's the only reason why I'm asking that question.
And we will be, last fall, we came to the board with the recommendation under the emergency resolution regards to the pandemic to be able to utilize a firm for this type of services, and we did. And right now we have some services that we wanted to provide this spring as relates to the Oliver W. Connor Promise Program, but then also the work with regards to enrollment efforts for the adult learners. For example, looking at the census data at the working adults to try to engage them at the college. And so we just wanted some help from SWIM to be able to identify and also work with us to be able to do robocalls as well as relates to our recruitment efforts that's outlined in the plan that will be shared tonight that's on the agenda. So I think this is a good contract for us right now in the interim, because we don't have time, quite frankly, to be able to go out to bid and be able to get a firm in time to start some activities for summer. And so by having SWIM to help us to get some things done for summer and also for fall will be in the best interest of the district.
Okay, great. Thank you so very much. And can we, sorry, I don't know if that's all I have. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
President Lopez,
Yes.
I'm not sure, but I think Dr. Little said she had a question about 1604, if I read it right, or maybe she changed her mind.
I did ask and she said no worries, that she was fine, but Dr. Little.
Oh, okay, okay. I was, well, Dr. Curry, Ms. Berger confused me about what she was talking about the calendar for the next year. Does that mean it's less days or the same days
It'll
or
actually
shorter
be
days?
more days for the next calendar. For the next calendar, it'll be more Fridays that'll be open because of the semester beginning later in August, not as early as we've been doing. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So there's gonna
Girl,
be an increase in the number of days for next year.
Okay. No, it's okay. I just didn't understand it because when you, I said, okay. So that's more days and better days for classified than it is this year.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
President Lopez.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Trustee Calhoun. I just wanted to clarify that my question, I think Dr. Curry addressed it in terms of the overlapping of the classes, that the schedule will be responsive to student needs so that they won't either have to go to another institution or have big gaps in their scheduling because two courses and maybe two separately different divisions are running up against each other. Is that correct, Dr. Curry? There's going to be more coordination?
Correct. As relates to the academic, as relates to the board policy about the overlaps. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
No further questions, Ms. Sylvia, if you could do the roll call, please.
Trustee Medina,
Yes.
Trustee Ramos,
Aye.
Dr. Little,
Aye.
Trustee Dopplemore,
Aye.
Trustee Calhoun,
Aye.
President Lopez.
Aye. Moving on to item number 17, Dr. Curry, before we move forward, if you can identify which ones can be grouped so that the board members know before we proceed.
Item number 17.0, 17.01, 17.04, and 17.05 can be grouped. 17.02, 17.03 have to be done separate.
Board members?
I move to approve 17.01, 17.04, and 17.05 together.
Second.
That's been moved by Trustee Ramos and seconded by Dr. Little. Do we have any discussion? Trustee Medina?
No discussion.
Trustee Ramos?
No discussion.
Dr. Little?
No discussion.
Trustee Dopplemore?
No discussion.
Trustee Calhoun?
Once again, 1701, 1704, and 1705 are questions that I asked Dr. Curry, and that's as part of the answers that he'll put in the chat. I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you. Ms. Sylvia, if you could do the roll call, please.
Trustee Medina,
Aye.
Trustee Ramos,
Aye.
Dr. Little,
Aye.
Trustee Dopplemore,
Aye.
Trustee Calhoun,
Aye.
President Lopez.
Aye. Moving on to item 17.02, Administrative Services, Compton Community College District Resolution Number 418-2022C, Budget Augmentations for the fiscal years of 2021, 2022.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Trustee Calhoun and seconded by Dr. Little. Do we have any discussion? Trustee Medina,
No discussion.
Trustee Ramos,
No discussion.
Dr. Little,
No discussion.
Trustee Dopplemore,
No discussion.
Trustee Calhoun.
No discussion.
See no discussion. Ms. Sylvia, if you could do the roll call, please.
Yes.
Trustee Medina,
Oh, sorry.
Aye.
trustee Ramos,
Aye.
Dr. Little,
Aye.
trustee Dopplemore,
Aye.
trustee Calhoun,
Aye.
President Lopez.
Aye. Moving on to 17.03, Administrative Services for Compton Community College District Resolution Number 0418-2022D, Budget Transfers for the fiscal year of 2021, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Trustee Calhoun and seconded by Dr. Little. Do we have any discussion? Trustee Medina,
No discussion.
Trustee Ramos,
No discussion.
Dr. Little,
No discussion.
Trustee Dopplemore.
I do have a question. I just want to, I'm looking on the document. When you say book supplies and material, this is just something that I'm just thinking of previously. Does this line item, this is probably, general, does that include the tablets, the hotspots, the calculators, some of the basic needs supplies that were presented earlier?
No, this is based off the general fund and transferring of dollars. So if you look at the top piece regards to the, it's a reallocation of budget to pay outstanding related costs. So these are based from their department budgets, but this is not from the basic needs budget because we use a restricted fund for that. And then we also use the federal HERF dollars.
So this one out of, so Dr. Curry, I should read this from like left to right, not from like top to bottom, right, with the different funds. So because it's in two separate categories, right? Read it from left to right. Is that what you're saying?
It's from left to right, correct.
And then the additional, the basic needs, that's coming from some of the HERF dollars and some of the other pools. Can you repeat it again? Where we're getting those from?
Dollars. So if you want the backup for this transfer to understand what's being transferred from the different departments, I can provide that to you.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that these dollars or what's being talked about, this transfer is not centered around the basic needs funds because those are from the restricted dollars for the district. And so, but you want to see the backup, if the board wants to see the backup as relates to each of the transfers and what departments, because if you look at this, it could be multiple departments that are have transfers under the general fund, unrestricted, and also the restricted fund.
Okay. So this is,
so
for example, this would be like textbooks.
I didn't hear that last part.
Would this be textbooks?
I don't know. It all depends on the backup. So I can pull the backup if that's what the request is from the board. But as it relates to your first question in regards to the hotspots and what we provide these students,
the basic needs,
that's a different fund. And so, but if you want us to provide the backup for all the budget transfers, basically we can do that. But for the board policy talks about when you're making transfers across major object codes, the board has to approve those transfers. And that's what we're doing. We're making transfers across major object codes. So the board has to approve that.
Okay, so from left to right, you're showing from one to the other. Okay, I have it, I understand it. And I will not need to have the back or the breakdown for these particular categories. For example, like the $43,741 for books and supplies.
Okay.
And that's all I have, Chair.
All right, seeing nothing. Ms. Calhoun, did you have anything?
I think we're good.
Okay. If we could get the roll call, please.
Trustee Medina,
Aye.
Trustee Ramos,
Aye.
Dr. Little,
Aye.
Trustee Dopplemore,
Aye.
Trustee Calhoun,
Aye.
President Lopez.
Aye. Moving on to 18 point discussion items and action items for 18.02. Dr. Curry.
So for the board, and without the essence of time, is that the fellowship, we already did 18.01. 18.02 is our 5-year fiscal management plan. All this is different, as I mentioned last month, is showing what the funding would look like under the student center funding formula for Compton under the 5-year. And that was the staff prepared. We also included in the packet the full-time equivalent student bid on FTS for the board. And we also included 18.04, the 2022-2023 outreach and recruitment plan. And this is more, the 18.04 is more information item because the academic senate is going to be reviewing it at their meeting on Thursday for a second read. But this is something that we've been working on with we have a task force who's been working on this plan for the last 10 weeks. This would have been one of Nicole Jones's first projects since she arrived at Compton. So we're trying to finish this last part of this and get the endorsement for the academic senate so we can move forward with implementation of those activities. And that's the discussion information section if you want to go back to it.
Before we move forward, board members, do you have any questions or comments? Trustee Medina.
No question.
Trustee Ramos,
No comment.
Dr. Little,
No questions.
Trustee Dopplemore.
Are we doing just on 1801 right now?
We did 1801 already. We're doing all of the information.
Oh, so we're
slash
doing all
action.
okay, so we're doing all them together. Just more on the recruitment and the outreach. But I will I'll just reach out if I have any questions, but I'm okay right now for that. I forget which one that is. That is 18. I'm really looking at
1804?
1804. Yes.
Got it. All right, there's no vote on this one. There's nothing to report on number 19.
Me?
Oh, sorry, Trustee Calhoun, I apologize.
1804 is one of the questions that I asked and received an answer, and it'll be part of the chat that Dr. Curry puts it in.
Thank you for that. Moving on to item number 19, nothing to report under grant items. Moving to item number 20 for board policies and administrative. Dr. Curry.
These are all here for information for the board. We're still working through the policies we reviewed this year. And so Sherry Berger is going to be working with the Academic Senate to finalize some of the policies, and then we can be able to bring back the chart at the next board meeting. Can I move to the information section? Is that okay?
Yes.
Oh,
Can I get my book? Oh, okay.
Trustee Calhoun asked for a book, which the staff is preparing. So you know how she is about her binder. Item number 21. Can I go to 21, Trustee Lopez?
Yes, that's fine.
So item number 21 is information items. I do want to highlight one of the information items, and I'm not trying to go through it very quickly, but I do want to talk about item 2130. I think that's the one on there. So what we did, I wanted to provide an update to the board after the last board meeting, and the board directed me to meet with Ms. Hollifield and Mr. Hollifield regards to the next step in the process, which I did, and I met with them on March 24th. And I will be scheduling another meeting with Mr. Hollifield and his granddaughter to talk about the process and the information that we need in order for us to take it through the consultative process here at the college. And so I did meet with them on the 24th, and someone mentioned it in their opening comments, and I'm going to schedule another follow-up meeting as it relates to that as well. And so we're following the process that's outlined in the Administrative Regulation 3320 as it relates to name of the building. And I do want to say, with all due respect to everyone in the room, the college has to follow the process that's outlined in the Administrative Regulation. It can't be because individuals come to a board meeting and voice their concerns or we have to follow a policy and administrative procedure because that's what the accrediting commission looks at, as how the board makes decisions. And so after the last board meeting, the board gave clear direction to me regards to the next step, and they actually took action on that. And that's when I reached out to Mr. Hollifield and Ms. Hollifield, and we had a great meeting, and Mr. Hollifield could attest to that. And I provided all the information. But the key to this is that the next step in the process is what I shared with Ms. Hollifield. And I was actually going to call the day that she passed to give an update to ask, because at the meeting, I was told that we'd get the information within a week. And so we still wait on that information. However, I'm going to meet with Mr. Hollifield and the granddaughter to talk about the next steps and provide them with the information so we can be able to prepare it to be able to be brought forward to the board after it goes through our consultative process. But it's outlined in the board policy of what we're doing and the minister regulation. But I want the public to know we did follow up based off of the board last meeting. And it has taken a little bit longer time in regards to this issue. As I mentioned to Mr. Hollifield and also Ms. Hollifield, is that the board policy changed. That was one. But then also two, just try to clearly understand all the buildings that we have on campus and all the naming that we have on campus and what was the process for that. And there's still things I don't know that was history regards to some of the naming of the buildings. And so as I mentioned to Mr. Hollifield, Ms. Hollifield, is that we're trying to figure it all out at the same time regards to the history. But the first step in the process is something that they need to provide to the district. And I shared that in a meeting on March 24th. And that concludes the information items for the board.
Board members, is there any particular item from 20.01 through 20.30 that you would like to discuss? Trustee Medina.
None.
Trustee Ramos.
I do not have any, thank you.
Dr. Little.
None.
Trustee Dopplemore.
No comments.
Trustee Calhoun.
No discussion.
Thank you so much. Board members, we are now in section 22 for future agenda items. Before Dr. Curry, actually, Dr. Curry, is there any particular that you want to speak before I open it up to the board members?
No, there's not.
Your mic is off, but I believe you said no. So moving on to the board members, Trustee Medina.
None.
Trustee Ramos.
None.
Dr. Little.
Possible revisit of our board meeting timing for staff purposes, trustee purposes, and community purposes in terms of the change that we made in terms of start and end times.
All right. And then Trustee Dopplemore.
Yes, and if this is a scheduled upcoming pending agenda item, I understand that as well. But if we could have a review of the different, I believe I mentioned this maybe at our last board meeting or a couple of meetings back, is if we could take a look at the different pathways that are offered at our respective high schools and do a comparison of the programs that we are presently offering at Compton College. And I'm saying that, and I'm asking for this to be an agenda item so we can see what possible programs we offer that need a refresh. We need to look at jobs, certification programs, degree completion programs, AA associate's degrees that kind of feed into our four-year institutions. If we could have a snapshot to see where we currently are, I believe that this will help us address where we need to be in comparison to addressing our low enrollment for students, to make sure that the programs that we are presently providing, that those programs are attractive with bringing students to Compton. Students have today with online, students have multiple options. They have a choice as to where they can attend their 2-year at community college. And I think if we take a really close look at what we have presently being offered and what is marketable, what is appealing, what is attractive to our students, I think we will be doing ourselves a service to take a look at that data and to see how we can meet the needs of our students. So this would be to look at what the pathways that are presently offered at the schools, at our schools, in our school district, and also look and see what we're presently offering to do a refresh, which ones to bring online, so on and so forth. If we could begin that discussion. Sorry, that was a little long-winded. I do apologize.
And Trustee Dopplemore, this is Keith Curry. I hopefully that everyone understands that we're getting to that point to have that conversation. But right now, the first step in this process is the Senate is looking at potential programs. The next part of this is starting to look at our pathways and then making sure our pathways are aligned with our K-12. I think it's more appropriate for us to work with our Academic Senate and the Guided Pathways Committees as it relates to our pathways and connect it to the data, rather than the board having a conversation about that at this time, because the next phase of this, of our work, starts with the Guided Pathways Committee and the Academic Senate having a conversation about all of our pathways and then look at the K-12. So I received the information from Common Unified School District, Linwood, and Paramount regards to their pathways. And the next piece of this is to assign it to those committees to start reviewing it. And that's going to take a little bit of time, but I think it's more appropriate for those committees to have the conversation. And that's something I'm going to task for them with in the month of May.
Okay, and Dr. Curry, thank you again for the clarification. So you said May. How soon do you think that we could receive a presentation on that to see where we stand, even if it's very preliminary?
I don't, quite frankly, with all the stuff that was happening on campus to get things done, I don't see I could be able to provide an update to a board until probably early July. But it's on the things that we want to be able to do to move forward. But we have so many pressing priorities. So the question will be, does this become more of a priority than some of the enrollment stuff that we're doing? And I would say no. However, this long term, this has to be done.
Understood. Okay, thank you so very much for your clarification on that. I do appreciate your feedback on that. Thank you so very much.
Trustee Calhoun.
Yes, as the board knows, when we were discussing changing the days of our meetings from Tuesdays, and we went through all the days, and so, you know, everybody liked Monday, well, except for me, but I went with it because the board went with it. And I would like to tell the board at this point in time, I explained to you, ladies and gentlemen, that Mondays were not good for me because of my prior commitments of another board that I'm on. And that board has sent me a letter that they are going to kick me off of that board. And I do not want to be kicked off of that board. So I'm asking this board to let's go back through this again, not to put it back on a Tuesday, but maybe possibly a Thursday. I don't know. I know Thursdays didn't work well for you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know, but the board that I'm on in the month of May, it is in person. So there are no more excuses for me that I can't make that board meeting, and it's on the same day as our community college board meeting. And this board is also very important to me. So I would like the board to put it back on the agenda and discuss it, but Mondays are not good for me whatsoever. And I did try it. I'm open to trying different days, but Monday is no longer working for Trustee Barbara Calhoun. That board that I'm on has to deal with students, period. Homelessness and students and families. And it's a board that I have a passion for. And I'm not gonna get off that board. Okay? That's how I feel because I work with the homeless. They are my passion. Trying to get homes, clothing, beds, food, whatever I can for them. And this is not just students, it is grown adults that are living on the streets. So that's one. Number two, if Dr. Curry is still listening, I'd like to see if there's a board policy we can have, or we already have, about having events. I say events because long time ago, if you've been here at Compton College, we used to have 5 and 10K track meets. We did autism. We did special for dyslexia. We did a whole lot of walks, runs. We had a lot of things going on at our college. And I know that, you know, things change. I'm not trying to go backwards, but I want to do is go forward to bring back where we have 5 and 10K runs, track meets. Everybody's always talking about the 4th of July, having a 4th of July where at the end, in the evening time, we have a fireworks show. And prior to that is on our campus where we have different booths where the community comes out and you know, and go to different booths where there's offering food, jobs, whatever it is that is vendors, you know what I'm saying? And then at the end of the night, we have somebody that does a fireworks show and stuff like that. So, and I know that we will have to look for sponsorship. We have so many industrial businesses up and down the Alameda corridor that I'm quite sure would love to be a sponsor on a lot of our events. And a lot of the people that do these events like autism, they already have their sponsorship. We can partner up with them and all that good stuff. And I don't know, because you ladies and gentlemen can tell me, is it feasible, non-feasible? Can any board member or student trustee board member sit in on the Senate meetings? I don't know. I'm not trying to get out of my lane. And I'm not trying to get out of my lane, but so that we can better understand, or can they sit in on a job applicant? I don't know. I don't want to get out of my lane. I want to stay in my lane as a board member. So I don't know any of that. So those are some of my concerns. It's not like I want to attend all your meetings. I just want to get a feel of how we can all collaborate and work together and be on the same one accord with one another. Whether we agree or whether we disagree, we can still be respectful to one another and learn each other's ideas and look at it from the other side. Instead of looking at it from the board side, let me kind of see it from your side so I can better understand how you, ladies and gentlemen, come up with the things that you do and what you need in order for the students, the faculty, to classify, in order for you, ladies and gentlemen, to really do your work. Just let me understand. It might only take one meeting. I'll say, okay, that's, no, I'm just asking that question. I don't.
If I may, Trustee Calhoun, we'll take that into advisement and discuss with Dr. Curry, and we'll come back to you.
And thank you, Dr. Nash. I'm on the call, and thank you. We will follow back up with your 3 concerns that you brought up today.
That's all. Thank you.
No problem. Board members, we are now moving to oral reports. Dr. Curry.
Yes, and I do apologize. I have the last flight out for a meeting in Sacramento tomorrow that I have to be on time for, so I had to move to remote. First of all, I would like to say thank you to the Board of Trustees for the opportunity to serve as the President and CEO of Compton College, Compton Community College District. I think a lot of work that we're doing right now at the college is groundbreaking as relates to student success. So I'd like to first start off with tomorrow on PBS at 4 o'clock Eastern time, 1 o'clock Pacific. They'll be doing a story on Compton College and the work that we're doing for Black and male of color success. And so that's going to be on PBS tomorrow. They did a taping in March, early March. And so we will be on PBS tomorrow. The second thing I'd like to say is that we had 2 of our staff members present at Illusion Live. Illusion is the company that provides our banner system, but we had 2 employees, Devora, and then also we had Gilberto, who worked as student service advisors. They presented at a national conference about our early alert progress report system. This is a major deal for us to have 2 of our employees speak at a national conference about early alert. And I want to recognize those 2 individuals for the work that they have done as relates to early alert, but also for representing Compton College so well at the conference in Colorado last week. One of the things that I really enjoyed about their presentation that they did last week was after they were done, they came to my office hours, and you can see the excitement they had about the work that they're doing as relates to early alert. And I was really proud of those employees for the work that they've done on our campus, but also to sharing the good news throughout the country. Also, I do want to say thank you to Dr. Minadora. We did have a conference. We did meet, and I do appreciate the comments that was made this evening regards to the relationship and things that happened last fall. As I mentioned in my meeting with Dr. Minadora, was that we're really interested in we're going to do our job and continue to work with the faculty and also staff to do what's best for students and support these student success. And so we'll continue to have meetings, and we'll continue to have other discussions, and we'll continue to work through the issues that we have on our campus. And the major issue is enrollment. And when I talk about the major issue being enrollment, I think what's critical is that for the next year, we all have to work together as relates to enrollment. And it's not just about recruiting a new student population. I'm going to actually ask the academic senate for recommendations of what we can do on our college to really address the retention efforts of our students. It's important that we get the students, but also we have to keep our students on our campus. And so at the next board meeting, I wanted to have a conversation with the board as a discussion regards to retention and persistence of our students, just so you get a sense of that data and what it looks like and how, and then we can start talking, work with academic senate about what we can do together to really address the retention efforts on our campus to ensure that students are coming back. They're completing the term, but they're also coming back for the upcoming term that we have at Compton College. That concludes my report. That was a lot, and I'd like to turn it back over to Board President Lopez.
Trustee Medina.
Thank you, Board President Lopez. And I'll keep this brief. This is my first report. It'll be my longest, I promise. Sorry, and from this point on, it won't be as long in the future. So my apologies once again if I didn't properly introduce myself earlier during my swearing in. My name is Paul Medina. As you all know, I'm an older non-traditional student here at Compton College. I'm working on my associate degrees, dual associate degrees in African American Studies and Sociology. To echo my words from earlier, in my 2.5-month term left, I'm ready to hit the ground running. Before being appointed to a student trustee position, I've been active as a student in local and statewide advocacy and governance for student empowerment. 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to attend a statewide academic senate spring plenary in Burbank, where I witnessed academic leaders being elected to their terms with the statewide academic senate. Got to as well see an amazing equity Avengers presentation by our very own President Curry. Last month, I had the opportunity to attend the Faculty Association of Community Colleges Advocacy and Policy Conference in Sacramento. I was glad to connect at that conference alongside Student Government President Stephanie Del Cid, who participated in a student panel alongside other student leaders. Other events in which I've participated in has been in attending alongside Dr. Antonio Banks, the AMEND African American Male Empowerment Conference. This great conference took place at the Hyatt LAX, as well as a Male of Color Leadership Conference at LA Harbor College. Thank you, Dr. Curry, for attending both events and listening to students and their needs to thrive in school. Last week, I had the opportunity to attend a spring break college tour alongside Transfer Career Center counselor Teresa Barragan Echeverria and fellow Compton College students. In the trip, we visited UC Santa Barbara, Cal State Channel Islands, and Cal State Northridge. I was so empowered to hear students and their academic goals and how Compton College is helping them and achieving them. Lastly, I am glad that our great college has reached this important milestone of having an in-person board meeting, seeing the college officially reopen, as well as to see Compton College become a certified Hispanic Serving Institute. Thank you once again to students at Compton College and entrusting me to serve as their student trustee. I especially want to thank my predecessor, former student trustee Benson Atkins, who has begun assisting me with the onboarding process. I also want to thank Dr. Curry for your assistance and guidance, not only as a student, not only as helping me become a student trustee, but as a student. I look forward to working alongside my colleagues on the board to help shape, further enhance, and develop policy here at Compton College as a member of the Board of Trustees for the betterment of Compton College, and to the best within my ability. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Trustee Ramos.
I just wanted to give congratulations to student trustee Medina for his appointment. And again, welcome to the board. That's all I have.
Dr. Little.
I too want to welcome our student trustee Medina and thank you so much for, again, your leadership. We look forward to you really engaging and representing the student body. Thank you to Dr. Curry and the entire administrative staff, the faculty, our student leaders and all the presentations. And another thanks to Pasadena City College for sharing some very insightful work. Really want to send condolences to the family of Emily Hart Holyfield, and just to thank her again publicly for her many years of service and leadership, and look forward to us as we continue to work collaboratively and collectively on behalf of our students and our community. Thank you.
Trustee Dopplemore.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Also, I would like to extend my condolences to Mr. Holyfield and the entire Holyfield family on your loss as well. I would also like to thank and welcome our our student trustee, Paul Medina. Welcome. Looking forward to working with you. And also, I would just like to share with everyone on tonight that we have of an upcoming event actually. On April 20th through the 22nd, it's an online two-day half-day event. It's over a period of 2 days. So the April 20th and April 21st, we have the College Affordability Summit, and this is an opportunity for students and family, and those in and around the financial aid space, is to learn about the best practices and tools that are available to address the new and ever-changing FAFSA and California DREAM Act applications and requirements. So I just wanted to put that information out there and invite you all to come and learn more about all the ever changes that we're having, the many changes that we're having centered around financial aid. And thank you all very much for the presenters and the faculty and staff, and also to the folks from Pasadena City College for joining us here tonight and providing us with the presentations. And that is all I have for my report tonight, Chair. Thank you.
No problem. Trustee Calhoun.
Yes, I want to thank the community for attending our meeting in person and on Zoom. I'm glad that Dr. Curry did have the opportunity to meet with Mr. and Mrs. Holyfield. And we will await when they do the paperwork, so everything could go in the process. And I'm glad that Dr. Curry explained it. And that's a good thing. So I would really like the community to please stay involved with our college. And if there's some volunteer opportunities that you think that you would like to do, why don't you just call and see if there's a way that you can volunteer at Compton Community College. And to our new trustee, student body trustee, thank you. It's about time. Woo woo. We looking forward to great work from you. Oh yeah, we gonna give you some work. We know you already got work. We already know it. I know. And I want to thank the staff, the faculty, the classified. I just want to thank all of y'all for the work that you do for this college and for whatever work that you do in your community. I just want to thank you for all your hard work. Staying here till after 9 o'clock on a board meeting, when I know that you would really love to be at home with your family and cooking, so I'm not going to belabor this. But I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much for the work that you do. And every now and then, we have to recognize and let people and let them know, no matter what happens, y'all do great work. I'm just a board member. Y'all do all the work. We just set policies and procedures. But I tell you, my age in this point in time, I can't do what y'all do. So that's why I just do what I do with the homeless and stuff like that. That is work, but I don't say that's more work than what you ladies and gentlemen do on a day-to-day basis. So thank you for all the stuff that you ladies and gentlemen have to go through and what you do and the headaches. And I'm sorry I don't have no Anacin or aspirin for any of y'all. And I would like to close in the honor of Miss Emily Hart Hollyfield, who was the first African-American female elected in 1975 until 1995, 20 years and 10 consecutive terms as board president, a good and faithful servant who will truly be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, board members. We want to welcome our new trustee. We look forward to having you participating and engaging and your fruitful insight as well. Our next scheduled board meeting is May 16th, 2022. Closed session begins at 5 and open session begins at 6. It is 9:28 and this meeting is concluded. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great night.
Good night.
Night. Thank you.
Thank you.